Welcome to Manchester, our city of languages. I hope you can hear me all of you can hear me. My name is Anjum Malik. It's a pleasure to be with you. I am a poet, scriptwriter, and I am a senior lecturer at Manchester Metropolitan University, as well as being a founder of Hidden Stories, soon to be known as Black Stories Matter. And here is my co-host.
Hello, my name is Hafsah Bashir. I'm a poet, playwright and performer, co-director of Outside the Frame Arts and founder of the Poetry Health Service, an online digital service providing poetry panaceas to the public as a tool for healing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. I am going to be reading from my script, so forgive me, as it's Hafsah. So here we go. This afternoon, between now and 5:30 p.m., we have a series of films, live interviews, so to introduce to you some of the people who make Manchester the city of languages.
This afternoon is brought to you by Manchester City of Literature and partners. And in addition to Manchester Libraries, Poetry, Theatre, Festival and universities, UNESCO also recognised that one of the strengths of Manchester's bid to UNESCO was its languages. Nearly 200 languages are spoken in our city on any one day. So join us as we celebrate the languages that make Manchester so distinctive and add to our rich cultural diversity.
Thank you, Hafsah. And we are visiting other locations too. We'll hear from other cities of literature, Nottingham and Tartu in Estonia, and we'll hear about many languages, Polish, Arabic, Bangla, Chinese, Lingala, and many, many more. And what better day to do this on than the 21st of February, as this is the International Mother Language Day itself. All around the world, people are celebrating language and the power of words. What do you think about the power of words, Hafsah, and languages?
Well, that is something that has been my forte for the whole of my life. The language, words, expression, the power of them. I think it's a wonderful thing. I speak Urdu, I know, and I can read and write Arabic. What about yourself, Anjum?
Yeah, similar. I grew up speaking Urdu and Punjabi. I read and write in it. I perform in it. And I was born in Saudi Arabia, so I grew up speaking Arabic and still do a little bit, not as much as I'd like to. But yeah, I love the power of languages, how it brings us all together, and what we can do with words.
I'm envious that you said that you can speak Punjabi. I wish I could. I can only sing in Punjabi, which I won't do today.
That's brilliant. I think my Punjabi is not as brilliant as you might imagine, but I love Punjabi. It's such a brilliant, earthy language.
You have to have a twang for it, I think.
Yeah.
So do say hello, everybody. Add comments or questions on YouTube or interact with us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram by using the hashtag, and it is a bit long, MCRIMLD21. And you can follow Manchester City of Literature on social media at Manchester City of Lit.
Great, thank you. So in the next hour, we will meet Yaron Matras from Multilingual Manchester, LCB Manchester. That stands for Language and Culture of Bangladesh. We'll hear about the new Manchester Poetry Library and some of its language collections, and we'll have a film from Cannes, Young Artists.
So do settle down wherever you are, grab your brew or your drink, and wherever you're watching from, and come with us on a journey through and beyond Manchester without leaving your sofa or your homes. This is a live broadcast, so do bear with us if we have any glitches or anything goes wrong or we lose guests temporarily.
Yes, so first of all, let's hear from Councillor Lufa Rahman, who is Executive Member for Skills, Culture and Leisure.
Join us on the 21st of February at our City of Languages, where we'll be sharing community films about where Mother Language Day came from and how it is celebrated, not just in Manchester, but through our international partnerships as a city of literature. We will hear from other cities of literature and how they celebrate their mother languages too. International Mother Language Day is a flagship festival in Manchester's annual calendar of events. This day is unique. It brings all our communities together under a single banner that celebrates languages, cultures, and our entwined histories. As a British Bangladeshi, I am personally overjoyed to see Manchester celebrating International Mother Language Day, because its roots lie in the Bangla language movement. This was a pivotal moment in history, which created a powerful sense of national pride. Ultimately, that movement led to the creation of International Mother Language Day, which is now recognized by UNESCO and celebrated across the globe. So it's so vital that we celebrate the diversity of all our communities and their mother languages, because they bring so much life to the city and make Manchester the vibrant and great place it is today.
Thank you, Councillor Rahman. And don't forget that you can see all of the events for this year's International Mother Language Day celebrations at www.manchestercityofliterature.com, and download a brochure while you're there too. Now we have Yaron Matras joining us. Hello, Yaron.
Hi, Yaron. Really, really nice to meet you on here. So tell us, it's really, really exciting to hear what you've been doing, which is, tell us, when did you set up Multilingual Manchester, and can you tell us more about what it is and what it does, please?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say how delighted I am to be here, and it really makes me emotional because about 5 years ago exactly, actually, I initiated the very first public celebration of International Language Day in Manchester. It was a rather modest event back then. We had about 100 people in the Central Library and some senior city council officers and practitioners from various sectors. But to see how it's become such a wide celebration, we've got now not just a day, but 2 weeks of such exciting events. And I'm so grateful to the wonderful people at City of Literature who've made this happen and have embraced Language Day and have turned it now into a permanent fixture in the life of the city. And as Councillor Rahman has said, it's a day where everybody comes together. It symbolizes a very distinctive identity for Manchester. So I'm so delighted and very proud to have been part of the small group of people who paved the way to get here. So Multilingual Manchester is an initiative that I founded about 10 years ago when I was professor of linguistics at the University of Manchester. And it brought together students and researchers at the university with practitioners outside of the university to, first of all, carry out research and establish facts about the languages that are spoken in the city. And not just the languages, but what we call language practices. So everything we do with languages. So for example, you mentioned before that you know some Punjabi and you use it in particular instances. And that's so typical of what we call the language repertoires in today's multilingual and diverse cities. People use languages not just as fluent speakers and writers of a language, they use bits and pieces. They use some words with their parents or grandparents and some greetings, and they're aware of that. So we have kind of such diverse language repertoires individually and collectively. Yeah. So we set out to explore these and also to see if we can, together with practitioners and community groups, look at the challenges and the opportunities that a linguistically diverse population in a city evokes. And also share good practice and develop good practice for harnessing language skills and language talent, and for seeing how we can assess and address language needs in different sectors. And what we've done is we've created an online archive over the years of student research, to which about 400 or 500 students have contributed over the years. It's probably the largest online archive of research on multilingualism in any city in the world. And I think it's probably one of the largest, if not the largest, online archive of research that was authored exclusively by undergraduate students. So we're very proud of that as well. We've been organizing events that bring together practitioners from a variety of sectors to see how we can share good practice and improve practices. We've worked with the city's many supplementary schools and created a supplementary school support platform. Supplementary schools are community-based schools that usually operate at the weekend or evenings, teaching home languages, community languages, and they do such an important job in the city because, as their name suggests, they supplement the curriculum that is offered by the mainstream state schools, but they also bring in a lot of pride and confidence, as well as issuing skills certificates that are useful for young people in their careers. They bring a lot of cultural confidence, and that really is very, very important. And finally, we've also developed this celebratory aspect. So in 2015, we, for the first time, organized Levenshulme Language Day in Levenshulme, together with Councillor Noor of Levenshulme. And that was the first public celebration of Manchester's language diversity. It was repeated a couple of years later, and then fed into the International Mother Language Day, which I, by the way, like to call International Mother and Father Language Day. I have passed on my own home language as a proud father to my son, who speaks my language, his mother's language, English, and 2 more languages. And we really have to, I mean, there is something, without wanting to denigrate the day, of course, and the occasion, there is something old-fashioned, I believe, about the term mother language. And I think we really should reflect that. And I think we are now, as a city of languages, a bit of a beacon to the world in the way we do things now with these celebrations. And I think, we may want to say to the world, can we bring in the fathers? Because the fathers have a duty to pass on their languages. I just want to say a final thing about Multilingual Manchester. We've done a lot. We've come a long way in 10 years. And the university has served as a kind of an incubator for what I call a civic idea. It's an idea that belongs to the city. And my personal view is that the time has now come to expand and to open up Multilingual Manchester from a research unit in the university and to transform it into a wider civic partnership. Now, we've started working in that direction over the past couple of years. We've already moved major public engagement activities to Manchester Museum, which hopefully we can talk about in a couple of minutes as well. And we have an event coming up next Sunday where we will introduce the Manchester Museum online platform. And I very much hope to see other stakeholders in the city come in a wider network, a civic partnership, because Multilingual Manchester has now proven itself, I think, as an idea. And we should obviously continue to work with researchers and students, but in my view, we should really widen the platform now and turn Multilingual Manchester into a wider citywide civic partnership.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we can see why you were, in your report in 2013, called Manchester the UK capital of languages. Are we distinct from anywhere else in the UK or Europe?
Well, I think what we said in our research back then was that for its population size, Manchester has a very significantly high density of languages, and that was in some way exceptional. But what is also exceptional, I spoke before about the repertoires and how we work with languages and bits and pieces of different languages. And what is really outstandingly unique to Manchester is some of the engagement with language and language resources and language needs. And if I can mention just a couple of examples. So we are one of very few cities in the country that has a city council-based translation and interpreting department, which is very, very active. And we also have in some of the hospital trusts in Manchester, what I believe, and myself and my research colleagues believe, is really the best system in the world that's been documented so far of addressing patient needs who have other languages. We've written quite a bit about it. We've worked with the NHS to address various problems and challenges. But notwithstanding the fact that you can always improve, this is really, there's no other system like this, at least that we know of, that's been documented. And finally, I already mentioned supplementary schools. We have a very wide network of dozens of community-based schools that operate at weekends and offer upwards of 10,000 pupils. We don't have exact numbers, but certainly more than 10% of young people in Manchester attend supplementary schools, which support culture and bilingualism and raise their confidence. So in all of these things that we've got a uniqueness here. Having said that, Manchester is not untypical of other large cities, and that's why it's so important to do this work and be, as I was saying before, a bit of a beacon to the world if we can, with no arrogance. I mean, we're reaching out, but we have been inspiring others and been inspired by other cities as well. Because I think we can safely say that something like 40% of young people in major cities like Manchester are multilingual in their homes. And that has many implications. So first of all, it says that, you know, when we have politicians or government agencies claiming that this is a monolingual country, claiming that English has to be everybody's first language, that's just not accurate. It just doesn't fit the picture. So we need to correct that, you know, and it's just a matter of fact. But it's also a matter of operational priority and pride to say it's a huge resource. Because people who are multilingual, we know from research, they have more flexibility, more aptitude to deal with different situations, and they have the possibilities and skills to reach out to people around the world. And so we've got a very unique and an important resource here, and we should cultivate it.
It's so thrilling to hear about the work you've been doing. It's incredible, and to meet you on here. You mentioned the multilingual museum project. I believe it's previewing next Sunday. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about that, please, Yaron?
Yes, well, this is one of the most exciting projects that I've ever been involved in, and I've had the privilege of being involved and working with wonderful people on many wonderful projects. But this is really unique. So we started this as a couple of years ago with the idea of turning Manchester Museum into the multilingual museum.
Wow.
That is not, you know, obviously adding on to the richness of the activities that the museum and collections that the museum has anyway. But this is part of the concept, the museum's concept of reaching out, becoming more diverse, reaching out to populations, becoming more inclusive, and also part of the decolonizing agenda, where Manchester Museum is really leading, not just in the country, but worldwide in many ways. So all of these things come together, and they involve you know, celebrating and acting out on our particular values and a particular ethos of what is the museum anchored in the community. And that's the background. As well as I was saying before, we've been taking some of the public engagement work that Multilingual Manchester had been doing from the university and gradually shifting it to the museum. Because as I was saying before, the university is a good place for incubating ideas, but it's not the place to necessarily carry on leading those ideas forever and ever. And Language Day is the best example. We initiated it. City of Literature and a coalition of partners have taken over now, and it's wonderful and it's fantastic. And that's exactly the way it should be. So we're moving to the museum and trying to have the museum as the point of anchor point for public engagement around multilingualism. And last summer we set up an online interactive platform where, of course, through the lockdown circumstances, the museum went online and put some of its exhibits online in the form of images with short text. These are kind of explanations, which in the museum jargon are called interpretations of the exhibits. And what we've done now, we're inviting the public to engage with those items online and to contribute in their own home language and home language repertoires, as we defined them before. Either interpretations of the exhibits, they can be translations, but they don't have to be exact translations. So we've introduced the concept of what we call storied translation. It's very unique and it's very creative, and it means that it doesn't have to be one-to-one. So you look at the exhibit, you write in your language what it means for you. And when I say your language, it can be different. It can be mixture of different languages. You can write Punjabi in English script if you don't know the Punjabi script, or in Urdu script. You can be creative. We're especially trying to get minority regional languages that don't have a written tradition. So we have contributions, for example, in Tamazight, which is the language of the Berber in North Africa, in Romani. And not only do we want people to contribute, translations or their ideas, but also comments on the language. and comments on the comments. So we have people engaging with the shape and form of language to see that, it's really language repertoires. In today's world, people are moving around and there's bits and pieces, as we were saying before, of language. So everything is part of your identity and your creativity. And we should have free access and creative access to all of these resources, and not just go by what is right and wrong and what has been the traditional authorized translation. We want to be free and open and creative.
Yara, could you tell us where people can find you and find the links to this, please?
Well, so I wasn't prepared for that question, so I don't have the URL in my head. However, if you Google Manchester Multilingual Museum, I'm sure you can get there very quickly. Sure. And also, we will have this event. It's on the program brochure for IMLD 2021, and we've got the event next Sunday afternoon, I believe at 3 p.m. Manchester time, and all the details will be there. But I'm sure that a simple Google search for Multilingual Museum Manchester will get you there.
Sure. It's been brilliant talking with you and learning about.
Thank you so much.
You're doing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
What a wonderful insight, Anjum.
I know. I just can't believe the amount of work going on and this incredible different things going on, and just makes me so proud to be in Manchester. It's amazing, isn't it, that we're part of it, and here we are actually in Manchester. It's amazing.
Did anything surprise you with what Yaron was saying?
Yeah, I think there was lots of things which surprised me. What surprised me was how big it is and how much work there has gone into it. And especially the museum project, I think it's brilliant because it sounds inclusive, and how the university have hothoused this idea, but now they're taking it out and making it, what did he call it? A civil project.
Well, I just love the idea of the public being able to contribute.
Yeah.
And add things in their own languages,
Absolutely.
Sense of ownership. Otherwise, museums really didn't have that feel for us, and I think that's wonderful.
No. It's really just shows how progressive things are in our city, and how exciting it is. And also, he said that it's happening all over the place. So we are linking with other cities, which we're going to see in a minute anyway, throughout this afternoon. But how we are learning from each other. So I love that idea that we will reach out, and that it's an open, encompassing idea, which is reaching out all over the world, not just all over the country.
Yeah, and the mapping as well, Anjum. I love the idea of this mapping. Otherwise, I live in Manchester and I didn't even know that, there's all of these languages being spoken, where they're being spoken, all these supplement schools, where people are really embracing their culture and their heritage. It's good for us to know as well, living in the city, exactly what's going on. It's brilliant.
I think it's amazing, because I definitely didn't have that going to school in England. And I can't wait to find out. I think it's amazing, because the things which will come out of that, because especially younger people who will come through proud and using their language and being able to take it out and speak it and write in it and whatever they want to do with it. I think we're in for amazing future generations coming up and really adding to the layers of our city and the languages we speak. How amazing it makes us all.
Brilliant.
All right. Is it time to move on? That was amazing. Can't wait for the rest of the afternoon. It's just too exciting. So throughout the afternoon, everyone, we are going to hear from 3 community initiatives and their celebration of their mother tongue. I loved what Yaron said about mother and father tongue. I really like that. First up is LCB, which stands for Language and Culture of Bangladesh. And given Mother Language Day is also the date of Bangladesh independence, today is doubly important to LCB. Let's hear from Nazma Yasmin at LCB.
My name is Nazma Yasmin. I have been running a Bengali supplementary school called LCB, Language and Culture of Bangladesh, for the last 10 years. My aim has been to teach the kids about the roots and culture and keep them busy in the process. You will now watch a video of the history behind the Mother Language Day through their performance. Thank you.
সময়ের চাকা ঘুরে আবারও এসেছে ফেব্রুয়ারি, যে ফেব্রুয়ারির বেদনাময় ঘটনা দেশের আপামর জনগণের উপলব্ধিতে এনেছিল পরিবর্তন, এনেছিল স্বাধীনতা। আজ স্মরণ করছি সেই ফেব্রুয়ারিকে, রক্তঝরা সে 21শে ফেব্রুয়ারিকে। প্রবাসে থাকি বলে হয়তো বিশেষ দিনগুলোতে মনে পড়ে দেশের কথা, সবুজ ধান খেতে মোরা, ঝিঝি ডাকা আর টিমটিমে পিদিম জ্বালানো সে গ্রামের কথা।
সোনার বাংলা ছিল তখন সত্যি সোনায় ভরা, ধনে ধানে শানে মানে উদাস করা বাউল গানে ভরা ছিল মনটা সবার, ছিল না খুব জড়া, কারণ সোনার বাংলা ছিল রে ভাই সত্যি সোনায় ভরা।
শিকল পরায় আমাদেরই হাতে পায়, ওরা আমার মুখের ভাষা কাইরা নিতে চায়, ওরা আমার মুখের ভাষা কাইরা নিতে চায়।
আমার ভাষা তোমার ভাষা
বাংলা ভাষা, বাংলা ভাষা
আমার ভাষা তোমার ভাষা
বাংলা ভাষা, বাংলা ভাষা।
বাঁচাবো বলে যুদ্ধ করি, মোরা একটি ফুলকে বাঁচাবো বলে যুদ্ধ করি, মোরা একটি মুখের হাসির জন্য অস্ত্র ধরি, মোরা একটি মুখের হাসির জন্য অস্ত্র ধরি, মোরা একটি ফুলকে বাঁচাবো বলে যুদ্ধ করি, মোরা একটি ফুলকে বাঁচাবো বলে যুদ্ধ করি।
মাটিতে মিশে আছে বাংলা ভাষার সেনা, তাদের বুকের রক্ত দিয়ে বর্ণমালা কেনা, তাই তো ওদের সালাম করি ভাষার তরে যারা গুলি নিল বুক উঁচিয়ে ভাষার শহীদ তারা।
Wow, Anjum.
That was incredible.
A powerful film.
Very powerful. Yes, yes. It's amazing. I don't know if I'm being biased, but I think in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, we really fought for our languages, didn't we? We have a history of keeping our languages, our scripts, and Bangladesh especially, they had to fight twice for it. First from the Brits, and then to become independent on their own as well. And I love the children. Didn't you love the kids?
It was so powerful. That image will stay with me and I think it brings something else, having children relay that history.
Yeah.
I think in something completely
yes, you're right.
That film, yeah. That message of how important it is for the next generation to know their history and to carry that on. It's amazing.
It is. And to just hear the language, it's so beautiful. I did learn because I spent a little bit of my childhood in Pakistan, and we were taught Bangla in schools. So, but I couldn't tell you. I do understand it a little bit, but I couldn't tell you really. But it's so beautiful to listen to when it opens that film and you just hear the language, and then the visuals is stunning. And as you said, very strong.
Very strong. And that film highlights the origin of International Mother Language Day. How important is it that we recognise that International Mother Language Day emerged out of the fight for the people of Bangladesh for recognition of the Bangla language?
Yeah, it's very important, because without them, we would not have everything we have today. Excuse me, all the events, the things happening around the world, they began it really. So they totally, utterly need to be remembered and recognized, because through their struggle, we now have this amazing celebration of languages, not just theirs, but everybody. Everybody gets the same recognition and, celebration. It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
What do you think?
I think it's amazing. That one line from that film really struck out to me, of how their alphabet was brought with the sacrifice of their blood,
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. It's really, it's, I just can't wait to find out what else is going on, because that was so good.
So I think for this next section, we are going to be meeting a poet who works in more than one language, and she is Jennifer Lee Tsai.
Yes. Hi, Jennifer. We have met before. It's so nice to see you again.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to see you, Anjum, again. And also
so nice to see you.
Lovely to see you both.
It's lovely to see you. Jennifer is one of the contributors to the Poetry Health Service. Her poem is giving comfort to lots of people, and this is the first time we're meeting properly.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer, tell us more about yourself and your work, please.
Well, I'm a poet, editor and critic. I was born in Bevington and grew up in Liverpool. And my first debut pamphlet came out last year, 2 years ago, in 2019 with Ignition Press, and it's called Kismet. And I'm a fellow of the Complete Works, which is a national poetry development programme which was founded by Bernardine Evaristo.
Oh, wow.
To broaden diversity in British poetry. And I'm also a Ledbury poetry critic as well, which is an innovative scheme that was founded by Sandeep Palmer and Sarah Howe. And the intention, again, was to broaden diversity in terms of poetry reviewing in Britain and in the UK poetry scene.
That's fantastic. There's lots going on there.
Jennifer, can you tell us about the work that you've been doing with the Manchester Poetry Library and last Tuesday's event?
Yes, of course, yeah. So over the past year, it's been such an honour to be involved in supporting and developing the new Chinese language poetry collection at Manchester Poetry Library. So I've been working with Becky Swain and Martin Kratz in curating the collection. And it's just been such a joy and pleasure from start to, well, I won't say finish, because I think it's still very much a work in progress. So so the collection's intended to be, extensive and eclectic, and it incorporates, a huge range of Chinese language poetry. Beginning with ancient and traditional poets, which will probably be more familiar perhaps to a Western audience. So poets like Li Po, Wang Wei, Du Fu. But I also wanted to introduce people to the latest contemporary names as well in Chinese language poetry.
Fantastic. Did you know, how did you go about curating the collection? And did you know from the beginning what you wanted to achieve for the collection, Jennifer?
Yes, I mean, I think I just wanted to, as I said before, to make it as broad and eclectic as possible, and to provide something of interest to everyone coming to the library. So whether they're coming out of curiosity, to find inspiration for scholarly research. So my intention was just to make it as broad and various as possible.
Yeah, great.
And so, Jennifer, tell us about writing in different languages. Like, what does this add for you?
I think it's enormously enriching. I mean, I think it's something which I feel as though is something which is continuing to inspire me. I think having access to two completely different cultures and languages can only enrich and deepen your writing practice, as a poet and writer.
Yeah, it's. Do you feel like when you're writing in the two languages? I was wondering about your collection as well. There must be different dialects across China, and other. I don't really know much about it. Are there different languages or different dialects? And
yes, there are different dialects. Yeah.
Okay.
So growing up in Britain, so my parents spoke Cantonese at home.
Okay.
So in my collection, then I have a poem which is called Another Language, and it's about sort of how I felt growing up, probably as a child, but even now, and sort of becoming more aware of the differences in those languages. So Cantonese has, some people say it has 7 tones, some people say it has 8, some people say it has 9 tones. And so there's enormous musicality in that dialect.
Yeah.
And in that poem, I write about how I almost feel like a different person speaking in Cantonese, as opposed to speaking in English.
Yeah. Do you feel different when you're speaking the different languages, or do you?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, in my PhD studies, I've been thinking more, deeply about the differences, and recently I've been thinking about how it feels as though Chinese is my mother tongue, and English feels like my father tongue.
I love that.
So having access to those these two languages which nourish each other and nurture each other as well.
Yeah.
And in your own personal experience as well, Jennifer, do you feel like it's given you access to a lot more people when conversing and learning about culture and heritage?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, as a poet, it's just been enormously exciting as well to meet poets who are from these two different aspects of my cultural heritage.
Yeah, and so one of the things is I'm always interested in because sometimes when I write in different languages, and say if you wanted to, do you revert to a language when you're maybe feeling really emotional, or if you want to be really regimental? Do you feel that one language can override the other, and sometimes you don't even realize, and you're talking or writing in one language? Does that make sense? Because sometimes poetry comes in one language and maybe not another, and how do you deal with that as a multilingual poet?
I mean, I think that's such a complex and interesting question. I mean, as I was saying before, I suppose Chinese feeling more like it's my mother tongue, then I suppose that feels sort of closer to the rhythms of my body, the unconscious, whereas English sort of feels more rational and more logical, and sort of more clear, and yeah, it's a complex question, and I think probably it's probably requires a complex answer. We could go on forever.
Can I ask you, Jennifer, about Tuesday's poetry event? How did that go, and who else was reading?
Well, it was a brilliant event, and I'd just like to say thank you again to Becky and Martin and Manchester Poetry Library for putting it together. It was such a shame that we couldn't do it in person, and see the books on the shelves. But I hope that one day in the future we'll be able to do so. So Tuesday's event, I was reading with two other poets of Chinese heritage. So Natalie Lynn Balderston, who's of British, Vietnamese, Chinese heritage, and Kit Fan, who was born in Hong Kong, but has lived in the UK since the age of 21, I think. So my reading was with them. And again, it was, I don't know, it felt really special and heartwarming, I think, to sort of be connecting to poets who, there's a shared cultural heritage there.
Can I ask you if you have any other multilingual poets and writers who might be your favorites, or you enjoy their poetry, maybe in other languages, but where you've read the translation as well?
That's a really good question. I think
I remember when you came to work on the first multilingual Mushaira we did.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to hear you with the other multilingual poets performing there. So yeah.
Well, I think, I've been thinking so much, my mind's been so much on the Chinese language poets that I've been curating for the collection. So if I were to think of sort of any names with regard to that, then I'd really recommend the poetry of Bei Dao, who was one of the so-called misty poets. And also a couple of female poets as well. So Wang Xiaoni, and Dai Yongming as well, who are published by Zephyr Press, which are an amazing independent press which celebrate poets in translation. I suppose thinking about poets of other nationalities and cultures, then I suppose one of my biggest influences as a poet is the Russian poet Marina Tsvetaeva. Poetry I really love.
Can I ask you, Jennifer, about the differences in poetic styles between English and, is it Cantonese that you write in?
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Chinese has a completely different script. I think that the differences in tones and rhythms is something that really stands out for me as well. And I think that it's important to bear in mind that in Chinese, obviously, visually as well, you're dealing with, a completely different, it's not an alphabet. It consists of visual characters. So there's a symbolic and visual element to that as well. So, for example, if I give you just a very basic example, then there's a pictorial element to Chinese characters. So, for example, the character for person is like these two strokes, which I don't know, if you look at it, it could look, visually like a person. Also, if I'm thinking about the character for mother, then it consists of two elements. So one of them is the character which symbolizes woman, which obviously makes sense. But the other character that's next to it is actually the meaning of that character means horse. Yeah. And sound-wise, the sound of the word for horse sounds very similar to the sound of the word for mother as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that I actually drew upon as inspiration for a poem that I wrote quite recently, which stems back to a very early childhood memory when I was with my mother. I was about 3 or 4 years old, and we were in this green field on the island of Jersey, but we actually saw some wild horses or ponies in the field.
Wow.
I don't know, and I think it just sort of triggered these kind of like series of, I don't know, subconscious associations.
Yeah. Did you read poetry? Do you remember what poetry you might have read as a child when you were growing up? Was it Cantonese or was it English or both?
Well, I think, it's funny hearing the previous speaker speak before about supplementary schools. So like a lot of British-born Chinese children, growing up in the UK, so I also had to attend a Sunday school to learn Chinese and to practice my Cantonese. Yeah. So I was probably the most studious out of my siblings. I think my brother and sister were quite unwilling to go and sort of develop mystery illnesses. Yeah, every Sunday.
Yeah. That sounds very typical of a writer, a child writer, always wanting to do the stuff nobody else wants to do.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, I think I remember at Sunday school, I learnt by heart a very famous poem, which is written by Li Po, which is about dreaming about his home and looking up at the moon and seeing the moon and sort of being inspired by how beautiful it is, but also feeling quite heartbroken because he thinks about his ancestral home and village. So that's one poem that sort of springs to mind when I think about what poetry I learned as a child, but also obviously going to school here in the UK. Then I was subjected to the English curriculum. So I just learned what I was given.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I think as children we do learn things off by heart, don't we? And one day it'd be lovely to hear you recite that poem. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was funny because I think that at that point in my childhood, then I learned it off by heart, but I don't think I fully understood what it meant.
Yeah.
And do you still know the poem, Jennifer, by heart?
I think I do. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Where can we find your work for listeners that want to get to know you more?
Well, I guess that probably I would point people to looking for my pamphlet, Kismet, which is published by Ignition Press, which is part of the Poetry Centre at Oxford Books University. So that came out a couple of years ago, but I'm currently working on new poems and working towards a full collection, and more recent work can be found online.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. It's been amazing talking to you and seeing you again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been wonderful to talk to you both as well, and so lovely yet to see you both.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. A real pleasure. Thank you. Wow, that was fantastic.
It was. I'm so glad to have met Jennifer properly.
Yeah, that sounds really, really good. So wouldn't you want to hear that poem? One day I think maybe we'll get that.
Fingers crossed, we'll get Jennifer and hear her recite that poem. That would be wonderful.
To hear her read that poem, maybe at one of the events at schools, that would be amazing. Right. So just to tell you, if you want a further taste of multilingual poetry, coming up on Friday, the 26th of February, will be a workshop with Zafar Kunai, who is a poet in residence at Manchester University. All events are at IMLD this year. All events at IMLD, that's International Mother Language Day, this year are free and online. So get searching for those and booking on them.
And the Manchester Poetry Library will be launching their language collection, and they will open to the public later this year. It's on Oxford Road and is part of Manchester Metropolitan University.
Thank you, Hafsah. We are now going to see a film produced by Can Young Artists. 4 young people in Manchester have worked with writer-director Yusra Wasama, filmmaker Clive Hunt, and musician Jadev Mistry to think about what home means and the strength and beauty they have found in Manchester and in Manchester Museum.
Baila ay si Bonga na ay si Bumungo na ay si Baula man kakire bang yakay bora ja jendeling yakay tibo kakakirang kusya sa imba na barang nyetting ay kamya barang nyetting kakire ge awajas ke imba yakay bora janyi wel taga janyi gisang yakay tibo kusya ke ba anyi gising yakay bora dien sabar ay silong la yakay tibo daeng sabar tulis kya yakay bora janyi wel taka janyi gisang kusya ke banyi gising na wel alang gis miringelang alang gis miringil dik gis jo alang gis miringil dik alang gis miringil gardenja Jilo na janga ba doing bele for kilmage jolo na janga ba
Oh my
doing
gosh,
bele rin
hi.
kilmage
Come in.
jolo asa kaula pereta jirgo swa jirga kila kinsiba nga iyan jaw na for dungo jang kila kinsiba nga iyan jaw na for dungo jang asoy nakiburay na brafatay
Las mariposas me dan esperanza, me recuerdan la belleza del mundo y que existe la posibilidad de un futuro mejor. Is this the story of this place? Have you forgotten how to dream? This is part of life, our hope, our dreams, our endeavor. I don't know.
This home I wake up in, this land I stand on, this street I occupy, this area I breathe, this city I live within, this country I reside in, this continent I live in, this world I belong to.
What does my city feel like? I don't know. It feels like a lot of things. It feels like different places, different people, different culture. No place has that like we have in here. The place means to me friend, family, life. If this place was a person, it would be like a young man. Because its energy is unpredictable. It's all things rolled up in one. It can be anything at any time. Time is of no consequence when joy is the feeling we ride. I never forget how to play in this city. It will remind you to hold yourself close as its rain and powers. What other places remind you to hold yourself?
I wake up and see people from all over the world. It makes you confident. How could it not? The places tell us in languages with the riddles, fables, and truths. Quiet. Shh. Can you hear that? If we listen carefully, we can hear the stories telling us something from the past. Hidden treasures nestled, buried in our chest. These words of the tongue meaning the world to me. The place I call home has the world on its doorstep, the world in its heart.
I have friends from Hong Kong, Belgium, Egypt, Latvia, Somalia, Slovenia, Poland, Sudan, Emirates. من وقتم خونم فکر میکنم من در مورد اینجا اصلا فکر میکنم بهتون راست بگیم من فقط به خونه واقعیم فکر میکنم ایران و من وقتی در مورد ایران فکر میکنم اصلا چیزایی که من فکر میکنم اصلا فکر میکنم نه جنگای تو ایران نه سیاست ایران هیچ کدوم من فقط در مورد خانواده‌ام فکر میکنم اونجا ول کردم و چیزایی که نمیخواست فکر کنی وقتی اونجا بودم اگر اصلا وقتی میری جای جدید اصلا بیشتر کاری هنر میکردی اصلا اینجا دیگه این بود نمیتونی بکنی چون اصلا اینجا نمیکنی و اصلا بعضی وقتا اصلا نمیدونی چی باید بگی ولی دیگه اصلا هیچ کار نمیتونم دامش بکنم چون دیگه اینجا هستم فقط باید زندگی کنم اینجا.
Assalamu alaikum, this is home.
Homeless people on the street. The governance is too stingy. Don't be snide. How is it that there's millionaires, billionaires, and there's people hungry? People with 4 cars and 3 houses. When some people don't even have a bed, it's not right. No one should go hungry or homeless. The government are fools. We're so blessed.
لم أحلم يوما بالنجاح بل عملت لتحقيقه. ابتسم فلا أحد يهتم لما تشعر به فلا تنتظر الفرصة اصنعها.
Do you know where we go when we sleep? Where do we go when we sleep? We go to many places. Time again has not rules cost all of the past, and the future is our. Where I go when I sleep is limitless. When I sleep, I can see things differently.
When I sleep, I wake and I dreamt that I was in a faraway place on another side. When I dream, I don't want it to end. Sometimes we see things and get scared about what we haven't done in our lives. I had a dream once. I was in Piccadilly Garden working a crap desk. But then I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. I have a dream. When I wake, I dream. I always dream.
I dream that we will wake from this current nightmare and I'll be in Piccadilly Gardens again with my friends after college.
Like a lion from a place like Africa, I am distinguished.
Like a falcon,
I can oversee.
the future belongs to those who live in the beauty of their dreams. Work hard and silent. Let the skies make the noise. Do you want to change the world? Start off with make your bed every morning.
Asa are ang alang kendinga din boro diyo keri nadim boro diol lang fingi alang toidik kikanga soy nakibore na boro fatay.
The universe was always ours, was always yours. Let's never get that twisted. Ebbed or shrouded, never me, never.
I'm a lion. I'm the falcon.
I am in the sky and rooted to the earth.
What a beautiful film. I'm not going to lie. I have such a wonderful glow under my chest bone. The stories, the music, the videography, it was beautiful. What did you think about that film, Anjum? How did it make you feel?
Well, it's just amazing, isn't it? Because how different each film is. And it was like it was about all of the world is in Manchester, from all the people we have from the world. And yet it was capturing what it was like what we all have in common as human beings, and yet how unique we are. And it sort of, it works on the macro to micro level so beautifully in that film. It was amazing. It was, I love the line about if you want to change the world, start by making your bed.
Bed, yeah. It was so instructional.
Yes. So yeah, that was really, really good. And just seeing the city, and also, don't you love it when people have accents and they're like,
oh yeah,
mixed with our local northern accents, and then from wherever you're from. So it just gives it another beautiful slant to whatever you're listening to.
Yeah, and what I loved was seeing like such iconic, things that represent Manchester, like those doves in the Manchester Museum, but through other people's eyes, and the way that was put together.
We all know that image, don't we? Because from Manchester Museum, it's such a, as soon as you see it, you know that's the museum. And I love walking up and down the stairs around those birds, and it's always really nice.
And I love that sense of possibility. That's what that film gives me.
Yeah.
Real sense of possibility of being falcons and lions and, you know, finding your way through what it means, what home means, what belonging means, what place means. You know?
And how you can go anywhere when you fall asleep and dream.
Yeah.
And be anything you want. It was really special. It was really, really special the way the poets and the writers and the filmmakers made us see all that, like you're saying, the possibilities, the sameness, and yet the differences between us, and in a very exciting, celebratory way. Rather, you know, I loved it.
Hats off to the young artists.
They're amazing, aren't they? I feel like we're having I know this is going out all over the place, but I feel like this is a private viewing we're doing, and you and I just having a little chat about it and going, aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky?
But we are like, you know, this next generation and the skill and the stories and the possibility that they bring, I think is just something that we all learn from.
Yeah, it's just great to see so much talent coming on through our screen to us and going out all over the place, wherever anybody's watching us right now. Yeah.
And just that lovely reminder, Anjum, that place can be friends, you know, where your friends are, where your family are. You know?
Yeah, it can be anywhere. And you know, this is at home, wherever you're from. I think that's the other thing the film was telling us.
Yeah, in this city that holds you close.
Yeah.
Which city? What other city can hold you this close?
Oh, I think I would say Manchester holds you the closest, as far as I'm concerned.
Not that we're biased.
Not at all. We're very fair. Yeah, that was what a treat. Well done, Can, and everybody who was involved in that. Some really talented people who made that. Okay, so shall we tell everybody what's going on next? Coming in this hour, we have a project about comics, and we are going to visit Nottingham. But first,
we've heard from people in Manchester and their connections to other parts of the globe. Let's visit somewhere where we haven't talked about yet, and that is Estonia.
It sure is. Tartu is in Estonia, which is a city of literature like Manchester. UNESCO cities of literature are committed to use reading and writing to power the social, economic, and cultural development of cities, as well as promote international cooperation and understanding. Estonia has an interesting story to share. Let's join our host, Sim Lil, to find out more.
Tartu või Tartu või Torpat või hoopis Jurjev. Esmakordselt mainiti aastal 1030 just Jurjevi nimelist linnust, mille Kiievi Vene suurvürst Jaroslav Tark rajas Toomemäele. Sellest ajast saati on linnas kõlanud mõtteid ja sõnu paljudes keeltes. Kaubandusteede ristumispaigana ning alates 1632. aastast ka piirkonna ühe tähtsaima ülikooli, Tartu Ülikooli kodulinnana, on Tartu kujunenud ja kasvanud erinevatest kultuuridest ja keeltest mõjutatuna. Ning ka kirjandust on siin loodud ja luuakse tänini erinevates keeltes. Koos teadlaste ja kirjanikega vaatame pisut nende keelekihtide sisse, mis Tartu kirjanduslikku vaimu on kandnud. On loomulik, et siit ei puudu ka klassikalised keeled.
Est homo terra, nil nisi massa, fabrica massa, cur igit tursik, pectora turgent, dic homo fastu, discita terram, quam pede pulsas, esse parentem unde creatus, quaec condet post obitumte, dissito tandem. Contrahi tergo turgida velet, est modestus. Est homo terra, nil nisi massa, fabrica massa, hinc Nicolae conamina laudo et studiumte matre benigna, Disserisunde ex animoti, gratular opryts.
Georg Mantselius oli muidugi baltisakslane ning lisaks klassikalistele keeltele on just saksa keel ja kultuur sajandite vältel Tartu kultuurilugu kujundanud ja mõjutanud. Ka kirjakultuuris oli saksa keelel pikka aega kandev roll ning baltisakslaste loodud tekste leiame veel ka 20. sajandi kirjandusest.
Die Geschichte, die ich erzählen möchte, hat sich in Dorpat zugetragen, einer kleinen Universitätsstadt, deren Ruf und Ruhm einst weit über die Grenzen unserer engeren Heimat drang und deren Name heute nur noch wenigen bekannt sein dürfte. Es seien mir deshalb einige Worte über den Schauplatz dieser Erzählung gestattet. Diese seltsame kleine Stadt, die einst Dorpat hieß und deren Name heute spurlos von der Weltkarte verschwunden ist. Aber keiner, der sie noch erlebt und gekannt hat, wird sie jemals vergessen. Damals, in jener sagenhaften Vorkriegszeit, lebte man bei uns im alten Livland, wie im ganzen Zarenreich, nach dem alten Kalender, der hinter der übrigen Welt 13 Tage nachhinkte. Hier in Dorpat schien die Zeit überhaupt still zu stehen, still und unverrückbar, wie die mächtige Domruine oben auf dem Domberg, zu dessen Füßen sich die Altstadt lagerte.
See eestlaste Tartu, millest kõneleb baltisakslasest jutustaja, pole aga sugugi väga vana, nagu pole seda meie kirjakultuuri ajaloos ka eesti keele positsioon. Järjepidev eestikeelne kirjandusprotsess sai alguse alles 19. sajandi teises pooles. Siiski, modernse eesti luule algust arvestame enamasti pisut varasemast ajast, 19. sajandi algusest, mil noor mees Kristjan Jaak Peterson oma tegevuses ja luuleloomingus kirglikult eesti keele võimalusi avama asus. Tartu südames Toomemäel asub Petersoni monument ning tema sünnipäeval 14. märtsil tähistavad eestlased emakeelepäeva.
Kas lauluallikas külmas põhjatuules minu rahvameelesse oma kastet ei vala? Kui siin lumises põhjas ilusa lõhnaga mirdike vilusas kaljuorus ei või õitseda kauniste? Kas siis meie maa keel, mis kui tasa ojake oma ilu ei tundes, heinamaa läbi sinise taeva kullases tules rahuga on jookslemas, ega toreda häälega oma rammu ei tundes taeva müristamisega, kui meri on hüüdmas? Kas siis selle maa keel laulutuules ei või taevani tõustes üles igavikku omale otsida?
Tänu kirele ning järjekindlusele eestikeelse kirjakultuuri juurutamisel sai eesti keelest 20. sajandil riigikeel, mis jäi ellu ka okupatsioonide kiuste. Inimesi, kes eesti keelt emakeelena kõnelevad, on üksnes miljoni ringis. Keele säilimine nõuab niisiis hoolt ja vaeva, aga ka luulet ja avatust. Siin loodav kirjandus pole sulgenud uksi teistele keeltele ning Tartu luuletajate loomingus kõlavad jätkuvalt erinevad keeled. Üks Eesti populaarsemaid lastekirjanikke, Mika Keränen, on küll päritolult soomlane, kui kirjutab oma lasteraamatud eesti keeles. Luuletab ta aga vahel hoopis karjala keeles.
11 velje. Eräs kuoli jo ennen sotti. Eräs sova-aikaa. Eräs ryyppäs tappiin asti. Eräs elelee vielä yksi ja haissoo paperitehtaalle. Eihän kuka sellaista halluu. Eräs kirjoitti melkein ylioppilaaksi. Eräs ties olevinnaan kaiken traktoreista ja otti nokkissa, jos joku toinen tunsi muotoiluskoneet yhtä hyvin. Eräs on allerginen oluelle. Eräs ajo autot järjestää ojaa. Sillä on ennen kortti. Mopolla yrittää pysyä tiellä. Eräs itki isä arkulla. Eräs on eronnut. Tai kaksi jo kuitenkin. Eräs teititteli äiti ja luki paljon ja oli fiksu ja oli hauska ja oli kovempi sälli kuin Antero Rokka ja Marlon Brando yhteensä.
Aga ka eesti keel ise pole igal pool sugugi üks ja ühesugune. Tartus ja siit lõuna pool räägitakse niinimetatud lõuna-eesti keelt, mis tegelikult hõlmab mitut murret. Neist levinumasse võru keelde on lõuna-eesti luuletaja Kontra tõlkinud Miga luuletuse.
Ja eski talu jäteti Timale, a Pernast ei ole ta koskilt taha saanu. Ei ole lihtsa olla täväline, vai nii lagja tönn, kie parrat kaast ei lööva, a tõsest küllest. Kost ma tiia, muidugi ei saa öelda, et mõistnu välja märki, mida no imätse tahtva. A määnsegi Belarussi sumbutaja asjust mulgataja poole ma küll kattekõrda ei kaessi. Anjo nuu omava ummet ega üts õnneliku naasemehe, mu esa on üts sääne. Vanamis ol seogia ikse, kui vanaesa kirstu haudalasti. Hildam vanaema matussil oliva tervel suguseltsil silmalike, a siis vanaesa matussil es ole ütelgi tõsel.
Eestimaa kagunurgas kõneldakse aga setu keelt, millel on samuti oma koht Eesti luules. Setu keeles kirjutab muuhulgas näitleja ja luuletaja Merka.
Ma tein trummi ja ükkuvalt sõna sai suust. Viimest mõtsaesest, tuulist ja ilmapuust. Trumm on mul kabri sõnast, helligu vassine kell. Vete peal mõtsu rüpü ja taivaste alusel. Pessema trumm ja laulse, Üüpäve arvada üts, ilma ma katse kinni, lumine kask ja müts. Pessema trumm ja laulse, üüpäve arvada kats. Maaime üsest sünny, keväine ilmalats. Laulu veeüte ja keegi, mõista ei tuua neid tagasi.
Eestis loovad kirjandust ka autorid, kelle emakeeleks vene keel. Nõnda on meil omaette tekstikiht, mida kutsume nimega eesti-vene kirjandus. Leidub aga ka Eesti luuletajaid, kes ühel või teisel põhjusel pöörduvad mõne muu keele poole. Tõepoolest, eesti keel on pidanud ning peab jätkuvalt võitlema oma olemis- ja säilimisõiguse eest. Ta on olnud ajalooliselt teiste keeltega ka vastuseisus, kuid selliseid vastuseise on võimalik ületada. Nagu sellest annab tunnistust näiteks ühe kõige tuntuma ja tõlgituma Eesti nüüdisluuletaja, tänavu 80. sünnipäeva tähistanud Jaan Kaplinski luule, mida autor on loonud nii eesti, lõuna-eesti kui ka näiteks vene keeles.
Белые бабочки ночи, черные бабочки дня. Чьи-то незримые очи зорко глядят на меня. В тенях растаяли тени, спят ракиты и бор. Сладко, без сновидений, спит у кладки топор. Тишины и печали полны пруду и сад. В темной синей дали звезды и звездопад. Смолкли слова и ноты, мысли грустны и ясны. Каждому свои заботы, каждому свои сны. В водном зеркале лица. Кто из них я, кто нет? Белой бабочке снится она, философ, поэт.
Kaplinski teksti esitanud luuletaja ja tõlki Aare Pilv ütleb valgete ööliblikate luuletuse kohta nõnda. Selle äärmist ökonoomsust ja vormitäpsust oleks tõlkes edasi anda võimalik vaid suurte sisukadude hinnaga või uue luuletuse loomise näol. Väike keel, nagu seda on eesti keel, ümbritseb ennast enamasti tugeva tõlkekultuuriga. Keeled suhtlevad oma vahel. Luule võib kanduda üle ühest keelest teise. Vahel aga kõlavad keeled üksteise kõrval, paralleelselt või üksteise järel, omavahel suheldes, kuid ikkagi erinevalt, eraldi, aga mitte üksi.
Another amazing film.
Absolutely. What did you know that those readings in the outdoors were filmed at 14 degrees below freezing?
Well, I didn't know until we were doing this, and I was watching the film closely. Nobody looked cold, whereas I think all you'd hear from me is brrr, brrr.
Well, everything is just shut down, isn't it? After we're here in England, it gets to, everything shuts down.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, in Manchester, if you live in, sorry, what were you saying?
No, go on, Anjum.
No, I was going to say that where I live very near the city centre, and if we have a few snowflakes, everything stops. We all panic. The train stopped, the buses stopped. Yeah, they looked amazing, didn't they? The architecture, the city, Tartu. I mean, I've never been there, but I'm so glad to be there through this film, and I think it might be one of the places I'll be whizzing off to as soon as I'm allowed.
I felt like that actually. Thinking it looked like such a beautiful place, and I love how it's overcome so many oppressions.
Yes, it's incredible. And I understood some of the German because I studied German at school, and I had an uncle in Germany when I was growing up, and I used to go and visit and try it out, like walk off on my own and talk to Germans. And now I have a German sister-in-law and a niece who's half German. So it was really nice to understand some of it. But some of the other languages, which I don't know, they were so hypnotic.
Yeah.
And sort of lulling, weren't they? They were like, you just wanted to go, just listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I love how the Estonian language has been revived through poetry.
Yes. And how, what did it say that some of the things, like the first record of Tartu is in 1030. It's amazing. And the way they've had Baltic German was the dominant language, and now Estonian has become a significant language. And I didn't know it was through poetry. That's amazing to know.
And I love the woman's song, with the drum.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Like I could just close my eyes and still feel it through my body.
Yeah.
Need to know the words, even though the meaning of the words were beautiful.
Yeah, it was quite, all of it was quite gripping and beautiful to the eye as well as to the ear. Yeah, very, very special. It's really nice to be traveling with these going to the different cities of culture. It's amazing. Of literature, rather. Cities of literature. Everybody, do let us know what you thought about the film or anything else you've heard today by commenting on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now, and you can use the hashtag MCRIMLD21 on social media. We look forward to hearing all your comments. Please get in touch.
Anjum, Tartu calls itself a crossroads of language and cultures. What other cities do you know that have all of those languages flowing into each other like rivers flowing?
You mean apart from Manchester?
Are there any other?
Oh, I don't know. I can't think of any really. Well, there are lots, aren't there? Like, there are lots in England, for sure. But I was thinking that there are so many international cities across the world where when you go, I've been to, like New York is like that. When I go to New York, feels very much like Manchester because it has so many languages and different people there. Where do you know? Do you know anywhere? Have you been to New York? Have you experienced it?
I haven't been to New York, no, but I remember going to Spain and feeling that.
Yes, yes. Barcelona, it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. What about in the East? Any other language cities? Bali, I was in Bali, you know, when we could travel.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that at all.
That was the last country I was in. That's like that. It's very international. Every language, everybody's there from all over the world. Made very welcome.
Well, Tartu's definitely on my list now after watching that film.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We'll be arriving there with poetry.
So now we're going to hear about a project using comics to help young people talk about the effects of isolation and loneliness, and then go straight into a film about World Jam, who are based in Nottingham, another city of literature. Let's hear first from Rhys Williams, who works for Manchester City of Literature.
Hey guys, my name is Rhys. For those who don't know me, I am the community engagement for Manchester City of Literature. Really excited to be joined by an artist called Ian Bob, who we commissioned to work on our recent Connected Us Through Comics project. And in a little minute, myself and Ian are just going to have a little bit of a chat about Ian's career, his work, about the significance of comics in terms of literature, and about the project. I also work part-time for another organisation, which I believe is fantastic and is doing fantastic work in Manchester, which is 42nd Street. So for those who don't know 42nd Street, they are a charity that works with young people to support their emotional well-being and mental health. And 42nd Street happened to be doing a project with Manchester Metropolitan University, which explores loneliness and young people's experiences and feelings of loneliness, the impact that loneliness can have on somebody's mental health. And they were having these conversations and building projects right at the time that the coronavirus pandemic occurred and happened. And so a kind of a light bulb went off in a few of our minds, myself, James, who was kind of heading up from MMU's point of view, and Rod, who works at 42nd Street. And we said, wouldn't it be really interesting if we looked at those young people's experiences of loneliness caused by the pandemic, and we try and find a creative way to express that, and we incorporate comics. I had that conversation with the young people. They thought it was a great idea, and we put together a little bit of a brief that explored what they'd like that panel to look like, those panels to look like. And I think more than anything, they wanted it to be an interactive comic, something that other young people could respond to themselves, that could add their own words to it, their own interpretations and their own feelings. And we're also working with one of our partner cities in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, which is the city of Nanjing. They're a city of literature, but they're also a specialist in comic. And this is Ian, who is the commissioned artist, and I'm really excited to have him with us. So Ian, tell me a little bit about yourself as an artist and kind of how you got into comics and illustrating comics as an art form.
Well, I'm an artist, full stop. I'm not necessarily just a comic artist. Art is what I've always done from when I've been little, and obviously I did it in school, did it in college, and university, and I've worked as a freelance. I've always worked as a freelance artist alongside anything else I've ever done. Comics is something I've always liked. Well, I'm old, so when I was young, everybody read comics, you know what I mean? But some people stopped reading comics and the rest of us carried on reading comics. That's all it is, really.
So what comics were you reading when you were growing up?
I was always reading, I only read superhero comics. That was it, you know. I wasn't really interested in anything else, like Beano or the Dandy or those kind of things.
Yeah, and I'm just reflecting on it. Obviously, I know your work quite well, and what I think is really inspiring, and I think in particular why I really advocated and really said we need Ian as the artist on board, was because of, I guess, the style that you use in that many of your protagonists are Black, and I think that there's something really significant in that. Has that always been the case? Has that kind of been a staple of your artwork?
To be honest, I think if someone's an artist, not just a visual artist, but anything, a writer, I would think they would create artwork that represents themselves. So it's not necessarily that, you know, I teach as well, I'm a teacher, and often when I show my artwork to students, at least a couple of students will say, do you only draw Black people? To which I tend to respond, no, I also draw dragons and spaceships and aliens and things like that. And because it's not, I don't draw, not that I'm drawing black people, I just draw people, but I'm black. So they represent me and I'm represented in my artwork. And I think it's important that people do represent themselves in their artwork.
I was reflecting a little bit before around, I guess, this project, and obviously having worked with you for a little while and understanding a little bit more now through conversation with you how a brief works. What was it like working on this project? Because I guess usually you have a comic writer, don't you, where they'll actually write out panel by panel, here's what's happening, but that didn't quite happen with this brief. So kind of what was it like working on the brief for this project?
Obviously, it's easier if someone gives you something and say, a story says illustrate this. If you set yourself some boundaries, you're able to go in a direction. Whereas with this, because it was quite broad, it was a bit of a slower process, but then at the same time, it does allow for more freedom, I suppose. It just allows you to draw what you want, I suppose. As long as there's some connection, it allows people to make their own story, which was, the project basically.
And would you say that kind of approach was changed in any way by the fact that we knew from the beginning Nanjing City of Literature were going to be on board, so potentially needed to create something that people who don't speak English as a first language would need to connect with in some way?
To be honest, no. I think if you're drawing pictures, it doesn't really matter what language a person speaks. You know what I mean? You're just drawing pictures. So and because there was an actual subject matter, which was around the COVID and isolation. As long as that's communicated in the pictures, then that's the brief answer. It's not difficult to draw pictures, based on what language someone speaks. It makes no difference, whatsoever. Well, not from my perspective, anyway.
Because obviously we're here thinking about International Mother Language Day, and Manchester being a city where almost 200 languages are spoken, and how that's reflected in many different forms of literature that take place and that are celebrated in Manchester. What is it about, I guess, comics that kind of bridges language and that kind of transcends language almost? Because like you said, it didn't matter that the people that are going to be responding to it in China might not speak English as a first language, but they're seeing the images. What is it about comics as an art form that kind of does that?
Language is basically words. And comics, you don't need words, for the picture side of comics. So that in and of itself, it's not that it transcends it; it just removes the barriers, basically. That's what happens.
Was there anything interesting that when you kind of read the brief of how the young people were feeling that you found interesting in terms of, this is what their experiences? Is there anything that kind of opened your eyes or made you think?
Well, yeah, because I work as a support worker as well. And in my support role, I've still been working. I've not been on lockdown because I want to still go to work. So I've experienced this lockdown differently from, most people. I've been out and about. And I suppose if you start watching the news, you are going to have a certain perspective. And I do believe that kind of perspective will put a downer on anybody. However, if you're out and about and you see, actually, the sun's still, shining, the sky hasn't fallen, and all those things, and COVID isn't hiding around the corner to come and strangle you, then basically that gives you a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
So it does then enable you to look at how somebody else might be feeling, and more, I suppose, I don't know if subjectively is the right word, but it does kind of make you think, well, actually, they're feeling that way because they're in that situation. Whereas I'm feeling the way I feel because I'm experiencing things this way. And one thing that I did notice is that when people, because at the beginning, not everybody was wearing masks. So as that kind of crept in, it did get to a stage where if somebody wasn't wearing a mask and somebody was wearing a mask, they would literally be looking at them like you're an alien or something, And I think that's what I tried to represent in one of the panels.
Do you feel there's still kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, a snobbery around comics as a form of literature?
You know what, right? To be honest, seeing that I'm an artist rather than a writer, it's not something that, if someone said to me comics aren't literature, I'd be like, whatever, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's not like comics want to be literature. You know, a comic is a comic in its own form. I think it's a fantastic media. You know what I mean? So it's not like striving to be something else other than what it is. The closest thing I can come to that is when I was at college. Like I said, I've always loved comics. I used to draw comics, obviously, because that was my interest. But my art teachers were very down on comic strips. They would say it's not art. So I think that's the closest thing I could come to it personally. And in that regard, I was like, well, it is art because it's something original that I've created. And I drew it with a pencil and it didn't exist before I made it. You know what I mean? And no one else do precisely the same thing I've done. You know, and it's quite unique to me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it is art, but it's just not art that you like. So it's the same with literature, you know. I mean, I don't know what the dictionary definition of literature, but I'm sure it's something about being creative with words. So if you're creative with words and then you add pictures to it, does that mean it's no longer creative with words? You know, so if you took, I don't know, Romeo, if I illustrated Romeo and Juliet in comic form, would it no longer be literature because you've added pictures to it? You know, that's the question. Now, it's a question, but to be honest, I don't really care about the answer. You know what I mean? You know, I'm like, whatever, you know, it's not the, so if I'm in your library and I say, where are the comics? And they say, well, we don't do comics here. Comics aren't literature. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm off to the newsagent. You know what I mean? Because they do comics there, you know, but you've just lost a potential, you know, reader.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue, really. It's not whether or not it's, you know, it's considered literature. It's whether or not you are going to make it accessible to people who might not read if they, you know what I mean? They might not be interested in the kind of thing that you consider literature, but they might still want to read. You know, they might just like their words with pictures accompanying them. Doesn't make those words less valuable. You know, I mean, you watch television and those pictures actually move. So there's even less imagination required when you're watching TV than reading a comic. Again, that it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Because it's something that somebody has created to appeal to a certain set of people. It doesn't matter whether they think it's literature or whether they think it's art or whether they think it falls into this category or not. As long as it does what it was supposed to do, then, you know, it served its purpose and it is what it is. So I think that's my answer to that, really.
Wicked. So Ian, do you have a favorite comic? What comics? Yeah, what are your favorite comics?
I've got a few, but there's one that I have become aware of recently. It's last year, and it's called Heru, the First Hero, and it's by a guy called Jason Barrett. He's written this story, and it's about a slave who is imbued with cosmic powers, and so obviously it's you know, quite an interesting concept, and he's built on top of it. It's like, I think 5 books. He's done 3 so far, but it goes back to, you know, using your art to represent yourself and tell your own stories, you know. And yeah, you can get it from somewhere called J Beyond Comics, I think is the title that he makes it under. But yeah, it's a great comic, and it's inspiring for people who want to do comics. Like I say, you know, represent yourself, you know, tell your own story, you know. So that's one of my recent comics that I like. I've got obviously older ones that I've liked from when I was a kid, you know, old Marvel ones. Watchmen's one that I really liked when that came out. Got some like Secret Wars and Christ on Infinite Earths and just old ones like that, you know, that go back. It's more because they remind me of when I was a kid and really excited about comics.
The nostalgia effect, the nostalgia effect.
So yeah, there's a few, you know, it's a great genre, so you can always find something in there that at some point or another you will swear it's your favorite. But it is, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Ian. Good stuff.
No worries at all.
And again, as ever, always a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for getting involved in the project as well, more than anything.
Thanks a lot, man. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Reese, and thanks for this one as well, because it's been fun, especially being as it's something that I do hold dear to my heart.
من هستم. من سال 2011 از شهر تهران در ایران به شهر ناتینگهام در کشور انگلیس مهاجرت کردم. ورلدجام در حال حاضر یک کمپانی ثبت شده هست که به غیر از خود من 2 مدیر دیگه هم داره.
How'd I get here? Snapping on a poppadom, drinking Cobra beer. Who set this in motion? Dragging my father 3,000 miles across the ocean. A head full of dreams he couldn't abandon. Ended in a night shift in Wolverhampton. You form your nation on mass immigration, then you blame us for the lack of assimilation. Who set the rules that we were the bait? Chased by the skinheads on the housing estate.
I'm Martin Gray, and I have been a World Jammer since 2017. Nottingham has always been a city of immigration and also a city of rebellion. The Salvation Army began here, the English Civil War started here, the Luddites started here as well. We even once had a cheese riot. And I think that's also reflected in Nottingham's literary history. The likes of D.H. Lawrence, Alan Sillitoe, Lord Byron were all very much internationalists. They all travelled extensively and they were all very much labelled as rebel writers in their day. Lord Byron even died fighting a revolution in Greece.
Ferestrele râd către cer, iar luna își leagă în mister safire de dor și ispită. Ne plouă mirare în eter. Zâmbesc trandafirii în glastră, un roșu ne plouă imens, prin gânduri și dăruie sens tandreții din noaptea albastră.
Witam, nazywam się Sara Ałajes, jestem pochodzenia wielonarodowościowego. Moja mama jest Polką, natomiast mój tata jest w połowie Grekiem, w połowie Arabem. Wynika to z korzeni mojego dziadka, który był Palestyńczykiem i pochodzenie babci, która była w połowie Cypryjką, w połowie Egipcjanką. Do World Jam przystąpiłam dlatego, że w moim życiu brakowało mi kreatywności. Miło się to dopiero tym, jak jeden z moich znajomych polecił mi właśnie grupę World Jam jako prężną grupę artystyczną zajmującą się promowaniem artystów z różnych stron świata. Za jego poleceniem uczestniczyłam w jednym z comiesięcznych spotkań World Jam, na których na koniec występów odbywały się tak zwane otwarte mikrofony, czyli open mic'i. Dało mi to więc możliwość na rozwijanie mojej pasji związanej z pisaniem wierszy, ale także dało mi możliwość nauczenia się, jak występować na scenie i jak pisać różnorodne formy literackie, gdyż World Jam organizuje różnego rodzaju warsztaty, które są bardzo pomocne.
اواخر سال 2012 من در یک کلاس شعرنویسی به زبان‌های مختلف شرکت کردم. استاد این کلاس ریچ گودسون بودن که اون زمان برای اولین بار ایده ورلد جم رو مطرح کردن که با اینکه من برای اولین بار شعرم رو به اشتراک گذاشتم با دیگران و فارسی زبان‌های زیادی در اون جمع نبودن، خیلی از خارجی‌ها که زبان فارسی رو متوجه نمی‌شدن جلو اومدن و گفتن که چقدر از اجرای من لذت بردن و چقدر احساس من رو درک کردن، که خیلی برای من جالب بود، برای اینکه موسیقی یک زبان بین‌المللی هست، خیلی شناخته شده هست به عنوان یک زبان بین‌المللی، ولی در مورد شعر این قضیه وجود نداشت و برای من خیلی جالب بود که اجرا کردن شعرم به زبان فارسی مورد توجه کسایی قرار گرفت که هیچ چیزی در مورد زبان فارسی یا شعر فارسی نمیدونستن. از اون روز من مدیریت گروه رو به عهده گرفتم و این ایده رو جلو بردم و اینطوری شد که ورلد جم درست شد که در واقع یک گروه شعر و موسیقی بین المللی هست که آدم ها رو از کشورها و زبان های مختلف دور هم دیگه جمع میکنه.
Każdy, kto choć odrobinę przebywał na emigracji, zdaje sobie sprawę, jak ważną kwestią jest kwestia przynależności czy poczucia bezpieczeństwa i posiadania własnego domu. Dla mnie, po moich doświadczeniach, dom jest tam, gdzie jest moje serce. Pomimo tego, że każdy z członków World Jam pochodzi z zupełnie innego zakątka świata, wszyscy teraz mieszkamy w Nottingham i staramy się zakotwiczyć w tym miejscu, sprawić, żebyśmy mogli się tu czuć jak w domu.
World Jam بهانه بود، یه وسیله بود که بتونم با آدمای مختلف آشنا بشم. با ورلد جم انگار یه حلقه دوستی تشکیل داده شد و این حلقه هر روز و با هر برنامه بزرگتر شد. هدف من این هست که در واقع این فرصت به دیگران هم بدم، مخصوصا افرادی که جدید هستن توی شهر ناتینگهام.
It's not my story. I write without proof, so but I feel with my imagination. My experiences, my thoughts.
We believe there's over 70 languages spoken in Nottingham. That combined with what World Jam is trying to do very much fits with that sense of rebellion and also very much fits with that history of being a city of immigration. Our aim to give people a voice, give people a platform, let people tell their story in their native language, we hope is adding to the rich history that Nottingham has.
Tak jak wcześniej wspominałam, piszę poezję zarówno w języku angielskim, jak i w języku polskim. Różnica w deklamacji w tych językach jest zasadnicza, szczególnie z tego powodu, że moim macierzystym językiem jest język polski, więc mam w nim o wiele większą łatwość posługiwania się nim. Nie czuję się tak stremowana, nie posiadam akcentu. Na pewno jest mi łatwiej występować w języku polskim i bardzo doceniam, że World Jam daje nam możliwość, byśmy mogli rozwijać się w naszym macierzystym języku.
One day I asked my 4-year-old what was wrong. She said she couldn't be a princess because her hair wasn't gold and her hair wasn't long. So if racism doesn't exist anymore, then where did this come from? As these microaggressive seeds are planted into my daughter's fertile mind, I'm the problem if I talk about race because apparently we're colourblind. But it's still their gold that's being sold, masquerades where nothing grows. But apparently it's over and done with and the matter should just be closed.
There are so many groups in Nottingham right now to support people's poetry and writing. We've got Nottingham Poetry Society, Nottingham Community Artists Network, Poets Against Racism, Punk for the Homeless, DIY Poets, as well as World Jam. We've got publishers like Big White Shed, award-winning independent bookshops like Five Leaves. We have Bromley House Library. We have so much.
ورلد جم ما همونطور که گفتم در از 8 سال گذشته از یک گروه شعر برای کسایی که انگلیسی زبان دومشون بود تبدیل شد به گروه بزرگ شعر و موسیقی بین‌المللی که حتی آدم‌ها از کشورهای مختلف میتونن عضوش بشن. هدفی که من دارم و تصویری که دارم برای آینده ورلد جم این هست که بزرگتر بشه، اعضای بیشتری جذب بکنه و بتونه حتی در کشورهای دیگه برنامه برگزار کنه.
That film made me want to dance.
Yes, I was dancing. Yeah, just in my chair. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's great to see so much stuff going on in Nottingham, which it says a city built on immigration. What do you think? There are lots of parallels with Manchester, don't you think, Hafsah?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's a city built on immigration and rebellion. There's definitely lots of parallels to Manchester. And also the film really reminds me that music is an international language, but not poetry. And it gives us food for thought that this is something we can be working on.
Yeah, definitely. Because I can't see why poetry can't be an international language where we connect, because it's so close to music. You know, and in that film we can see how you can connect to it, because you were saying you wanted to dance, I was wanting to dance as well, and you could even when you don't understand the language, you can kind of get the idea of what's going on.
I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty. And what about the film just before? I loved the idea of comics, and it was amazing. I just wanted to say a couple of words about that, because it was it's such a good way to reach people. Young people.
And just to Ian Bob, saying that actually, this is the time for us to represent ourselves. I think
absolutely. Yeah.
Message. Remember, you can go on www.manchestercityofliterature.com to find out more about all the events that we're talking about and have mentioned through this program.
Yeah, thank you. We are now going to hear from 3 Manchester-based artists who have been working with Community Arts Northwest on a project at Manchester Museum that will come to fruition this summer. In the first film, Abbas Al-Janabi, who is originally from Iraq, reflects on language and race.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to talk about the International Mother Language Day. And because we're talking about mother language, and a language is made from words, I'll try to concentrate on words as the key element of the whole language. I know some people will say, oh, is the sounds, is the letter? No. I want to talk about the word. And if you notice, when we say the word, any word, it's amazing how our imagination start to actually bring the image, the situation, or anything has a relationship with this word or connect somehow to this word. For example, international. As soon as I say it or anybody say it, our head jump and say, oh, multi-countries. Maybe all countries we know, or all countries exist, or some of them at least. The second word is mother. And mother is amazing because, I think mother is one of the perfect form of humanity. It's amazing how in any language, when you say mother, any person will think of all these situations where we needed somebody and our mother was there. Or even when we don't need anybody and she was there. Sometimes we do things, but we notice she frightened more than us. It's amazing how this person or persons, with one word, you can actually refer to her. The next word is language. Language is one word, but if I don't say what I am talking about, it could be any language on this earth, whether it's sign language, Arabic, English, Spanish, or whatever language. And it's really, really, really important to think all these sounds, all these words, all these millions sentences and books and it's made from words which is made this language or languages. It's amazing how one word can contain all these things together, how it is a key. The final word I will talk about is race. And the reason that actually race, one of its meaning is to compete, to run or to jump with other person or another group or groups. And that's normal. We do it for fun, for actually competition, winning, or whatever reason. It's something very normal. But race has another meaning, which is where we come from, you know. And when I born from a certain race, it's a fate. If I have this color of skin or any other color, it's something I can't change. I can't refund it. I can't exchange. It's a fate. That's why I and everybody on this earth should accept it. But if you are racist, then it's not normal. You have a problem. You are not well. You need to go and seek help because you are sick. And there is a reason to feel so against other people. And that's why don't make yourself feel normal. No. Go and find the reason and try to cure to be like everybody. And if you look, I have 3 apples. They are all apples. Some will say they might taste different. They have different characteristics. And we also the same. I mean, human is a human. And when we say human race, it's a human race. And we all come from one mother and one father. So that means we all equal. Because word is essential, I chose a monologue from a play written in 1969 for a writer, he's from Egypt, called Abdul Rahman al-Sharqawi. The title for the play is Hussein the Revolutioner. And because it has certain words which might make people think or took action, right action, this play not allowed to be on stage since then until this moment. A lot of people try to actually put it on stage. They're not allowed it. And this monologue I am going to do, it's talking about how important, how big is the responsibility which we carry when we say the word. The word, it's not just a word. It's responsibility. It's us. When I say something, some people say, just say it. No. I need to think, because if I say it, I should act according to what I say. It's like a promise, and a promise is a word. Thank you.
كبرت كلمة، وهل البيعة إلا كلمة؟ ما دين المرء سوى كلمة؟ ما شرف الرجل سوى كلمة؟ ما شرف الله سوى كلمة؟ أتعرف ما معنى الكلمة؟ مفتاح الجنة في كلمة. دخول النار على كلمة، وقضاء الله هو الكلمة. الكلمة لو تعرف حرمة زاد مذخور، الكلمة نور وبعض الكلمات قبور. بعض الكلمات قلاع شامخة يعتصم بها النبل البشري. الكلمة فرقان ما بين نبي وبغي، بالكلمة تنكشف الغمة. الكلمة نور ودليل تتبعه الأمة. عيسى ما كان سوى كلمة، أضاء الدنيا بالكلمات وعلمها للصيادين فساروا يهدون العالم. الكلمة زلزلة الظالم، الكلمة حصن الحرية، إن الكلمة مسؤولية. إن الرجل هو الكلمة، شرف الرجل هو الكلمة، شرف الله هو الكلمة. ولا رد لدي لمن لا يعرف ما معنى شرف الكلمة.
That was the brilliant Abbas Al-Janabi, illustrating the power of words, taking action and responsibility. Really powerful. I loved that, Anjum. What do you think?
Yeah, it was. I understood some of the words, and it just reminded me, like Arabic has this connection, doesn't it? Like in my head, the religious connection, like the verse-like quality, the sound is so musical. So it was amazing to hear all that and to read the words and their meanings and just to understand some of it as well. Yeah, I loved it.
As he's saying that monologue, it's really powerful. I loved it.
Yeah, it was. I loved the setting as well against those amazing bookshelves and all the books.
And I really appreciated how he said racists are sick, go seek help. Normal.
That was quite impressive, the way he took one word and then took us on a journey.
Yes.
And even offered us a cure if you had a sickness through a word. It was brilliant. That was very clever.
And now we have a film made in lockdown by the second artist, Fajana Kabir.
Alexa, stop the alarm.
শিমুল পলাশ কিংবা কৃষ্ণচূড়া হয়ে যায়, দাও দাও জ্বলে ওঠে সমগ্র স্বদেশ। ভাইয়ের খুনের বদলা নিতে চায় শব্দ সৈনিকেরা।
সরি।
আমি কি ভুলিতে পারি ছেলেহারা মায়ের অশ্রু গড়ায় ফেব্রুয়ারি, আমি কি ভুলিতে পারি।
Hello, Rahi. Where are you? হাসছিস কেন? তুই কোথায়? শহীদ মিনার?
জানা, দেখ আমি কোথায় আসছি।
আজকে তো 21শে ফেব্রুয়ারি না।
আজকে তো বন্ধু দিবসও না, তাহলে আমি কেন তোকে আজকে ফোন দিছি?
সারপ্রাইজ? ও বিয়ান, শহীদ মিনারটা মনে হয় আগের মতো নাই, তাই না রে?
কি বলিস? স্মৃতি কখনো বদলায়?
তোর মনে আছে ওই মেয়েটা এখানে মারা গেছিল?
আমি একটা কবিতা পড়েছিলাম,
মনে পড়ছে।
আমাদের সবচেয়ে সুন্দর সময়, আমাদের জীবনের সবচেয়ে সুন্দর সময়।
ওরা 40 জন কিংবা আরো বেশি, যারা প্রাণ দিয়েছে ওখানে রমনার রৌদ্রদগ্ধ কৃষ্ণচূড়ার গাছের তলায়, ভাষার জন্য, মাতৃভাষার জন্য, বাংলার জন্য, যারা প্রাণ দিয়েছে ওখানে।
যে ভাষায় কথা বলি, যে ভাষায় জীবনের সুখ দুঃখ বুঝি, যে ভাষায় এই পৃথিবীটাকে চিনি, সে আমার বাংলা ভাষা, আমার মায়ের মুখের ভাষা।
Wow, that was emotional.
Very, actually. I found it quite hard to speak after that one.
Yeah. I totally agree. You can't stop people from wanting to be in touch, and you can't stop artists from creating no matter what. That's amazing.
It's such beautiful and a powerful movement. Brings us right back to International Mother Language Day. You know, that something powerful can be born out of tragedy. And the fact that that place, the Minar of the Shaheed, is now a place of poetry, and there's that image of the child playing, just gives so much hope. Beautiful.
Yeah. Just done so brilliantly and so simply. Power of language and visuals, incredible. And like you, it's very, very moving. Okay, so now we hear from the third artist, Louison Kangombe, who is going to talk to us about the Lingala language.
Mbote, kombo na ngai Louison Kangombe, nazali Congolais ya République démocratique du Congo, na vandi awa na Angleterre, précisément na Manchester. Lelo na ye kolobela bino mpe mwa muke à propos ya langue oyo tolobaka biso ba Congolais mingi na kombo ya Lingala. Lingala ezali langue moko très populaire na ba milieu congolais. Soko kute na ba Congolais partout na ba mboka ba paya na Congo mingi tolobaka kaka Lingala. Ezali langue moko très populaire ya langue moko kitoko mingi. Mais na Congo tous na ba langue ebele. Tous on a un dialecte épelé, tous on a une multitude de langues. Tous on langue, on a langue nyonsoana, tous on a 4 langues. Auto bengaka, ba langue nationale. Donc, ezali ba langue le bama mwa mingi. Parmi ba langue nyonso tous on a na Congo. Ba langue on a tous na Lingala, tous na Kikongo, tous na Swahili, tous na Chiluba. Tout à la langue mot la langue officielle. Wana ezali français. Français ezali langue officielle na Congo, c'est-à-dire ezali langue oyo lobami na ba école, oyo ba utiliser pour na botangisa ba école, ba université. Ezali langue lobami na musala na ba milieu officiel, ezali langue balobaka nde français. Lingala ezali langue moko très populaire na Congo. Mais origine nango penza ezali province na Congo babengaka province ya Équateur. Na province wana ezali na tribu moko oyo babengaka Bangala. Peza monoko na bango ezali langue na bango. Des places Lingala penza euta. Alors qu'est-ce qui fait que lelo Lingala s'imposa na Congo et koma penza langue moko très populaire na Congo par rapport ya ba langue mosusu. Après l'indépendance na ba années 60, tozwaki mokonzi moko na kombo ya Mobutu. Ye Mobutu autaka na province wana ya Équateur place Lingala ezalaka. Place Lingala euta. Alors d'une certaine manière a imposaka Lingala comme langue ya armée. Or armée ezalaka partout. Soki na ba mboka nyonso na ba province nyonso okuta ba camp militaire, okuta ba soldats bazali. Donc c'est ce qui a fait que Lingala et panzani na mboka mobimba. Pour ezalaki langue liboso ezalaki langue ya armée. Et puis quand on parle armée, langue de la police, il y a la gendarmerie à l'époque. Donc c'est comme ça que Lingala est réussi à s'imposer et qu'on s'est propagé na kati ya Congo mobimba. Alors Lingala est la langue très populaire, mais ça populaire na Congo, ça peut langue moko elobami pe na bamboka oyo ezali frontalier na Congo. Parce que Congo est un mboka monene et ils ont moins influence sur bamboka po ezali pembeni nango wana. Mais ezaka bamboka na tezana bamboka mosusu na Afrique pe place Lingala elobamaka. Et c'est là parce que na époque moko boye musique congolaise a musique moko zaki que dominer Afrique mobimba. Et musique wana ezalaki koyemba ma mingi na Lingala. Ce qui fait que ba mboka mosusu oyo bazaka ko musique congolaise bazaki pe na souci ba mboka na bazaki pe na souci na ko koyeba bazoye manini bazoloba nini. Et voilà donc intérêt c'est que bango pe ba banda ko ko Lingala ba Lingala et le fait que ba congolais pe ba bema mo mingi ba kana pe na ba mboka ya ba pa ya mo mingi. na bamboka na s'installa permita pe moi koyeba propagation koyeba na ya lingala. Donc voilà un peu lingala eza langue oyo biso ba congolais tolobaka eza langue moko kitoko mingi, eza langue moko nga na benga kango langue moko libre, parce que lingala oyo tozoloba lelo ngai nanga kolobela bino lelo o biso ba congolais tolobaka en réalité ezali différent na lingala oyo akala ndenge ezalaka liboso ndenge bangala penza bazalaka kolobela ngo lingala échangé mingi, le fait que et comme langue ya batu nyonso ya batribu nyonso pratiquement, donc et connaître puis l'influence dans la transformation ebele, ce qui fait que lelo lingala soki toza koloba yango okoyoka mutu azoloba lingala mais azotia bamo ya kikongo na kati okuta bamo ya chiluba na kati. Biso awa tozalaka na Angleterre soki tozoloba okomona ozoloba lingala mais otie mo ya anglais na kati, bamo bao baza na France kuna baloba français okotia bamo ya français. Donc l'important na lingala ezalaka ke message eleka. Tant que message eleki, il n'y a pas de problème. Ce n'est pas, les langues moko, ils étaient rigides, benza, ils ont le canon, mon tu fera loba boy. Tout, ba kumakango kaka boy, te, ninga les langues moko très libres, et c'est ça qui fait beauté nango. Les langues moko très libres, les langues moko kitoko mengi. Ngana, za, na uta na mboka, wana te na province, wana te place, lingala e uta, originellement, mais, c'est pla nango mengi, les langues moko kitoko. Voilà un peu, moi, histoire historique ya lingala na ndenge salake ekoma lilo penza langue moko parler partout na Congo et ba congolais ba le bango mingi ba sepela na mingi. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
That was interesting, Anjum.
Yeah, so this is part of the Mother Tongue is Hungary project, the 3 artists who are going to be producing this performance. That was really interesting, all the different, how they are responding to the word hunger in so many different ways.
Mm. And how aware were you of Lingala? Were you surprised that the army was one of the ways it spread and became so popular?
Well, I'd never heard of Lingala, the language, before we were asked to do this hosting. I love the word Lingala. It sounds so good, but I'm not surprised that the army have been responsible for spreading the language and making it become, because in history, the languages which become more established are the ones where there's an army behind it, really. If you look at English, Arabic, Urdu, any language really, you'll find that it depends on how strong they are, maybe through the army. So that's a whole other subject, isn't it? Which is quite interesting. It was amazing I look forward to seeing that in the summer, and that performance at the Manchester Museum. Okay, so next we're going to stay with the Congolese culture, but first a reminder of what else is coming up. We're going to meet Zahid Hussein and talk about the Made in Manchester poem. And we're going to meet Manchester Poetry Library's director and hear about the multilingual Mashara and the Mother Tongue, Other Tongue project.
Do remember to share your thoughts and comments using the hashtag MCRIMLD21.
The 7 project started with Emmanuel, Mappy, Michelle Caleb, and there's another boy, Noah. It started because of the area that we were living in. There was so much knife crime and gang violence, and there was all the boys and all of their friends were familiar or knew somebody who was involved with knife crime or gang violence or who had been a victim of, and it was just a big thing. And it was not just because it was a big thing in the news, but because it was a big thing in their lives. They had lost friends and close people to it. So they started because Emmanuel is a music prodigy, I say. It's like nod. He loves music basically, and he just started teaching the boys music. He taught Mappy keyboard, and then Noah the bass guitar, Misha Caleb keyboard, and then we just thought, so we started meeting together and inviting their friends and inviting other people. So it was just to give them a cultural heritage, because Seben is a Congolese-based music. So it's the sound is all Congolese. So at the same time, they were learning about their culture, but also learning about a positive outlook. I think it's really important because once young people are here, especially second generation immigrant, they get lost because at home they speak the language, they eat the food, and then they see the cultural aspect of it. But when they go outside, they have to kind of adapt to the British culture, and sometimes it causes friction. Sometimes there's a lot of anger or misunderstanding. So I think as second generation immigrants, it's really important to understand the language and to love the language. Positive outlook for themselves first. We want them to see that it's not all about negative. Young Black people, it's not just what the media shows there. Positive confidence to know that they're able to do anything, and also that they could themselves also contribute to the community. So we do things like community outreach. They go and clean the streets and clean churches and volunteers, so they could give a positive outlook and not to just see what's in the media. It's not, as I say, it's not always their portion, because then they're able to make a positive thing and learn transferable skills, and they could go out there and really be like positive citizens, I guess. I think it's really important. When I was younger, because I am also a second generation immigrant, I remember they used to tell us at school to only speak English, and that's the way to learn. But then now with studies and we've learned that it's best to speak to children in other languages. So I think being bilingual or having another language is such an advantage, because you're able to interact with the older generations. Like if they go back to their homeland, they're able to interact with the older generations. And it's like you belong to a culture, you belong to something, to a culture, you belong to a group, you belong to a community. So it gives you a sense of belonging as well, and a sense of pride that, I speak French, I speak Lingala, and then, so yeah, it's really important for us, yeah.
Something that's really stood out for me is just the fact that everyone is a community, different culture, different races coming together. So it's been great to see young people form new friendships and things like that.
I like it in a sense of, because when I was younger, there wasn't really anything like this happening. So obviously, me and my friends, we weren't bad kids anyway, but there was nothing else for us to do. So we'd be like outside, just chilling, etc. But obviously that was like almost a stepping stone for us to start doing bad things. Because obviously when you're bored, you're just out on the streets, there's nothing else to do. But I'm happy because obviously as I'm involved in this, I'm seeing the actual progress in other kids. Like, so obviously as I'm teaching the kids music, I'm seeing they're interested, they're seeing that there's more to life than just, chilling on the roads.
It helps the community. I think like a week ago we gave out food to like people that needed food during quarantine. So we don't just do music.
What I really like about this project, and what I get out of this project, is we're bringing the community together
and we're just bringing culture to the world, bringing the Congolese culture to the world, and we're doing this through music, which is really essential in our culture. Like Seben is a really, really big part of our culture. And we're not only teaching Congolese children, we're even branching out to different ethnic minorities and people that are ethnic minorities. And it's a really good thing to be a part of. And also it's given me the opportunity to even embrace my creative sides because I'm designing the website as well, and being a part of the social media things. That's what I benefited out of this project, really.
Especially because I'm an athlete as well, like it's kind of hard to focus at times. But I definitely think if I didn't have like Seben around, I'd be involved like 100%. So it's a good way to keep like my head straight, I guess.
Congolese music is actually really pretty much really addictive, isn't it? And we're seeing new artists emerge, like Congolese artists emerge, and they're mixing, the English side of music with Congolese music. So obviously when I'm teaching the younger kids now that you can do that as well, and it's almost like a way out as well. If you want to pursue music, for your future, here you go, we're here to teach you to do that. They're learning about their culture, innit? Because usually, like when I was younger, I knew I was Congolese, obviously, but I didn't know my culture in it. So obviously, when I would just see like stuff on the news just about Africa, some of the things would be bad. So obviously, I used to be like a bit ashamed, a bit embarrassed. So now that obviously we're teaching them more about the culture, like they're more proud to say, yeah, I'm a Congolese boy, I'm an African boy, etc.
You know what? I just think having pride in your culture, that element of pride will give you the opportunity to learn more. Because if you're prideful in something, you want to know more, you'll learn more, you'll interact with other people from your community. So just having pride is a way of understanding and learning more.
So how did you find that? I love the way the participants talked about the way they were reconnecting with their cultures and heritage and how it benefits them. I wonder if enough people know about it and how it's available to them.
I think there's definitely a rise in the younger generation connecting to their own culture and heritage. I mean, that film shows that completely. But I think it's more of a question of what can we do to support in that journey, I think. And I know that I benefited a lot from the supplementary schools that we had when I was young, much like in this film with the Congolese community. And it was somewhere where we went every Saturday and learned about our music, about language, about films, about all sorts of things, our heritage, where we came from. And I think if we can support that more and really promote it in schools and community centres and groups and things like that, I think we're on that path anyway. I think we're seeing great results. That's what the film shows.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And maybe continuing to build that platform of mother languages outside of International Mother Language Day.
Yes, absolutely. And having pride in whichever language you speak in is so important. I think we are doing it right in Manchester. We're on our way, aren't we, to do that?
I'm a bilingual assistant in schools, and I know that there's a huge drive of making children feel really proud of their mother tongue and appreciating the fact that there's these two cultures that the children can benefit from, and others as well. That's how we foster understanding amongst each other and learn about each other.
Yeah, that's fantastic to know. That is so good.
So for this next segment, we are happy to invite Zahid Hussain.
Hello.
Zahid.
Hi, Zahid. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Great.
Zahid, can you tell us more about Manchester City of Literature? And why has Manchester been given this designation by UNESCO?
Well, I would probably begin with asking, well, how could it not be given this designation? I think it's obviously a privilege. It's a great honor to have been given this title by UNESCO. But to be honest with you, I feel that Manchester offers so much in terms of story, great writers, and across the board, whether it be fiction, screenplay, poetry. I mean, I don't have to name names. There are so many writers that have emerged out of Manchester. But more than anything else, it's the story of the people of Manchester. You know, this is where the Industrial Revolution began. You know, this is Graphene City. You know, there's so much going on in Manchester, whether it be music, football, you know, over 200 languages spoken in Manchester. Manchester remains a magnet. You know, people are drawn to this city, and I think that there is everything to celebrate. And when we achieved that designation, I think that there were many people who were almost like asking themselves, how was it that we didn't have that designation before?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what is your role, Zahid, in Manchester City of Literature? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I chair the City of Literature. So the City of Literature itself is a partnership between Manchester City Council, the University of Manchester, and Manchester Metropolitan University. And I try and chair all of that. It's still something very early in its development, and it's something that I think we're really excited about because of the ambition of Ivan, who's the chief executive, and all the team. And you know, we've seen great things emerging during a very difficult time for everybody in the pandemic. And I think that kind of cultural leadership is really important. And I think the City of Literature offers something, a platform, a vision. It's a beacon for many cultural organisations in the city now. And I think it's been brilliant the way that the City of Literature has developed so quickly.
Yeah. We're totally with you there, Hafsah, and I've been singing praises of Manchester. It's so nice to have you here and to hear what your role is. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Zahid, before you got that role, you wrote and organised the Made in Manchester poem. Can you tell us how that came about and how you worked with other people?
Yeah, well, basically what happened was a councillor, Lutfur Rahman, he's the lead on culture and leisure in Manchester. And we were just having a conversation one day. I think it'd been recently kind of discovered that Manchester had over 200 languages spoken in it. And we were talking about, well, how can we celebrate that? How can we bring that into some kind of focus? And through just in that conversation, I don't know if it was him, me, or how it was suggested, why don't we create a poem made of all those languages? And that's how literally it was born. He called me back the very same day and says, look, go ahead and write it. We'll bring the teams together. So it was Manchester Libraries, Read Manchester, which is part of that, Arts Council, etc. And it was very much a case of on the hoof, just coming up with a poem and then sending it out to schools and community centres. And it's amazing that it grew to become the tapestry that it is. And it is a living poem as well. So the project has not ended.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see the poem now.
We are made in Manchester, we are spun from hope. We are a city united forever, braided into a single rope.
Mangkunian dan kilang tekstil mungkin tangkapan pertama Anda.
Ní hawan ag tógáil spérscagadóri ach muilte dhrehead is tithe.
Plas fi balong. Plas fi dia.
Lakin wano nakana ilalafaha.
Kila mtu amekaribishwa. Kila mtu ni rafiki.
Manchester kujua karakter.
手牵着手，我们奔向未来。
Zomaar aan Rijksreizen tragen, vede die blijven trogs du Zuma.
Abbiamo molti tipi di facce e molti tipi di grazie.
我們以萬次斯特為傲，為我們有着蜜蜂般精神的市民而自豪，更為我們是龍的傳人而感到光榮。每個人是獨特的個體，但大家都同樣具備了精彩的文化背景和堅定的信仰。
Manchesteri multe mosket și împucurnuc ețim betum. हम हैं एक दूसरे की सहायता के लिए, हम हैं एक साथ हमेशा के लिए.
希望o喜びの土.
Mēs nekad nezaudēsim savu identitāti.
Musa yɛka kasa ahodoɔ mpempem.
Nanso biribiara nni hɔ nom ɛbɛtete yɛn ntam.
Προσφέρει φιλοξενία, ζεστασιά και ελπίδα σε ανθρώπους από όλα τα πέρατα του κόσμου.
Gdzie błyszczą światła, gdzie ulice przyjazne, gdzie nikt nigdy nie jest samotny.
Lácriamos o nosso lar.
Dwi'n dwlu ar y lle yma, mae'n hudol, fy ninas mabwysiadol anhygoel.
ഞങ്ങൾ എല്ലാ റോസാപ്പൂവിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളതലങ്ങളാണ്.
Manchester البيت السعيد.
আমরা সবাই একসাথে থাকতে পারি.
আমার সোনার ম্যানচেস্টার, আমি তোমায় ভালোবাসি.
Ang anto pakalahi lahi moe mopilte sa ato. Mamagayo gana ang gugmamakatu kanayo.
Manchester hiya jariatina. Dien kompong cha bong hai nek do day nar pdia. Sesh fanzele karka Manchester. Wantum pali pali huya se woteni moye.
Vijay uk nodig hebt wisselen oudheidsjaar.
Koi amari juda nahi kari shake.
Бид хүмүүстэй ажилладаг бас хүмүүстэй байдаг. Хүмүүсийг хизээч чунгадаггүй. Misogyny is многокультур, но живем в гармонии.
Manchester is nuestra fortaleza. Manchester is nuestro corazón. En plats at verlichli och songe oskarja. At vite at alla aviigen.
Kami ay isang pamilya. Manchester her zaman sizin için buradadır. O halde arkanızda yaslanıp rahatlayın, manzaranın keyfini çıkarın.
Spindente rishkej wigje shokente tangos klote. Telin gatim timo wow kulu.
C'est notre endroit de réconfort.
Manchester er vårt livsstil, hvor livet vårt beginnet.
Manchester da fotball.
Silo kishe ebodanoke, sibokate ubakati.
We may speak 1,000 tongues, but none will dare divide us. We'll always be too strong, because we are truly one.
Wow, that is truly an uplifting poem, Zahid. I feel like I've flown across all of Manchester with that poem, like one of those beads or birds. It's amazing. It's incredible. Where can people see the poem?
Well, online, YouTube, but also, I mean, currently Tomi is the Central Library. Because of COVID and so on, its next move to the poetry library has been delayed, but that's where it's going to be. That's going to be its permanent home. Currently, it's 64 languages.
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, 64 sounds like a lot, but we actually had a lot more. The main issue we faced was each language has to be independently translated. So the actual bottleneck was translators. Because we can't just, add a language. You have to check that the meaning is right, that it fits the poem and so on. There's a lot of effort involved. And our kind of vision for it was that we would like all the languages that are spoken in Manchester to be part of that poem, which made perfect sense then for it to go to the Poetry Library, which is part of Manchester Metropolitan University, and to carry on growing.
Yeah, I love the way it's growing. It's like a language. It's like a parallel to languages, isn't it? Like, languages change and grow. English and Urdu are fine examples of that. And this poem is just like that. I love the idea that it'll carry on going and growing.
Well, that is language. I mean, the metaphor running through is about thread, weaving, cloth. We our languages, our tongues, all of this, our humanity, our DNA, it's all there in that poem. And to have, I mean, the real challenge of the poem was to take all these languages and to put them in a form that would make sense.
Yeah.
And that took immense effort. I mean, I can show you a really, really complicated spreadsheet we had.
I can believe it, because translation is quite complex, especially when it comes to literary translation. So you have all that to add. And so do we need more translators? Do we need to get more translators, creative translators?
Well, I think absolutely, it's a really good question. Do we need more translators? Yes. To be fair, I think most people who speak more than one language, this is what they do as part of their lives. We are constantly interpreting and translating and adding and taking away from here and there, moving things around. I mean, I speak quite a few languages, and in a way, I feel I'm cheating because in my head, they're all one language. They're just different ways of saying the same thing. And yes, we need more translators. And I think Manchester is really well placed to be able to say to the world, we are the world. We are open. We want your stories, whatever language you speak. We want to hear it. And I mean, one of the really moving bits is the way that sign language is part of that poem as well.
Yes, I love that bit.
It just shows the kind of universality of language that, it is very much hardwired into us.
And I learned the other day that sign language can be done in different languages. So are you going to think about adding that as well? Different languages in sign. I don't know if I'm correct in that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're correct. There's many different forms of sign language, and there've been many instances where people have made their own language. And you might be interested to know, I remember when my nieces used to speak the B language.
Yes, I used to do the same when I was younger.
You did the same?
We used to speak the F language.
Oh, the F language. If for those of you not familiar, what happens is children in schools, they choose a letter in Manchester. It was B for some reason, and you just add it before a vowel. So hello becomes habellabo.
Hello.
Listening to it, you think this is nonsense, but actually it's just a form of encryption.
Yeah, it's brilliant. What about your food using F there? Sorry, sounds like I'm being rude, but I'm just trying to speak the F language.
Hafsah, were you going to ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Hafsah.
I was going to say, just to the listeners, that let us know what you think of the Made in Manchester Poem Project by using the hashtag MCRIMLD21 on social media, or leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Just a reminder. And another question for you, Zahid. What's next for the Manchester City of Literature?
What's next? Oh, well, wow. Well, right now we're in the middle of International Mother Language Day, and this year has been absolutely incredible so far. I mean, there's 18 events part of this year, and it's from all kinds of languages, Chinese. There's been even MacFest, I think, was it last night? They did a whole mushaira in so many different languages. I lost count of the languages they were doing it in, and I was just astonished. It was great to see the mushaira form entering so many languages. And also what's great about mushaira, I think it was in the comments as well, I think Yaran was saying the word Urdu comes from Turkish. And I think that just exemplifies what languages are. They're all syncretic. They all take from other cultures and times and periods. And I mean, to actually have a mother language period here where we are celebrating this diversity is great. So, I mean, there's so many events to look forward to this year. So I think you were going to come in again.
No, I'm just really enjoying listening to you. Sorry, I didn't know whether you were talking to me or Hafsah.
Proud of Manchester. And we have National Poetry Day coming up, World Poetry Day, on the 21st of March.
Oh, yes. I mean, the calendar is absolutely chock full of things going on. So yes, we've got the World Poetry Day on the 21st and the Festival Libraries, which is going to be a very, very big thing. And that's in June, I think from the 9th to the 13th of June. So it's going to be the first time ever that we actually have all the libraries coming together to celebrate everything to do with libraries. So libraries, I mean, I'm going to give you an example of what libraries mean to me. My mother doesn't speak much English, but when, she's come to this country, what she absolutely found as a lifeline for her was the Urdu section in the local library. And even today, I mean, if she goes to the library, I mean, at the moment, we're a bit curtailed, but it's the Urdu section.
Yeah.
And when you go to libraries like Longside in particular, where you have such a large Urdu section, you can see how that draws communities in. And I think that has been such an important thing for communities coming from different parts of the world to find a place where they feel at home. And language is that thing which really binds them. And what people don't realize is that Urdu is actually a lingua franca. It's not necessarily the mother tongue of many people, but it's a language that even now can bring together countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, because it's a language which is well versed. I mean, Bollywood, I can't make up my mind sometimes if it's a word is Hindi or Urdu, because everything gets mixed up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're so right, and not forgetting the diaspora, because Urdu and Hindi are now spoken so similar, and you feel connected wherever you go in the world. That's been brilliant.
Well, yeah, you can go to like Dubai or anywhere where you've got a large Indian population or Pakistani population, and you find that people may speak a different language at home, but they will use Urdu to actually cross the divide. And to actually have, say, Arabs in the Middle East speaking Urdu, I mean, it's brilliant.
And it's the same. I don't know if it's the same you found in, like I've been in the Far East, and people who don't know the Hindi or Urdu language will sing the Bollywood songs to you or say the dialogue, but they don't know what they're saying.
I mean, from Russia to Africa, people don't realize that the effect of power of Bollywood, but also so many of the songs are written in Urdu. And, you know, what is the difference? Well, it doesn't matter what the difference is. It's the different languages and different cultures have influenced each other. And when you influence something, there's something about the way that people think about the world. And that is in that language. It's in that song.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's an absolute pleasure speaking to you today.
Yes.
We are going to say goodbye and move on to the next section, but thank you for all your insights.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zaid. Great to see you.
Goodbye.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. It's a real pleasure now to welcome Becky Swain, the director of the New Poetry Library. Hi, Becky.
Hi, it's absolutely wonderful to join you. What an amazing afternoon it's been. It's wonderful to hear about Made in Manchester.
Yes, what a poem. What a flying poem. It's amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, and we're really looking forward to hearing all about the Poetry Library from you. Can I start off by asking you to tell us about the vision of the Poetry Library, and also tell us more about the launching of the language collection in the new building later this year.
Of course. So I know that Hafsah mentioned that the Poetry Library will open on Oxford Road later this year. We're only sorry that we couldn't have the launch of our Chinese and Polish collections in person, but we will definitely have another party when the time is right. And the vision for the library really is to celebrate the many languages of Manchester, exactly what we've been talking about this afternoon. Really, that anybody who walks into that library can read a book or see a recording of a poem and feel as though they belong to Manchester. And it isn't a collection that's been put together historically. It's been curated with the people of Manchester. So that's very important to us. And I guess the first collection is the Chinese collection that launched on Tuesday. And then next Saturday night, we've got the Polish collection with Bohdan Piasecki and Kamila Janik, who's joining him, who's a poet and vocalist. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. What a way to build up to the opening of the library.
I think so. And we may not have been open physically, but we've had, I think now 5,000 people come to online events.
Wow.
And when we had our Chinese collection launch, we had Kit Fan and Natalie Lynn Boulderston, and I know Jennifer was speaking to you earlier about how she feels about putting together that collection with us. And very much she asked her network what they would like to see in the collection. And that none of those collections will be finished. They will always grow, a bit like the Made in Manchester poem. As Zahid says, there may be over 60 languages now, but the aim is to keep adding languages so that anybody who ever comes to Manchester, whatever their language, could potentially contribute to that poem. And we will have it as an interactive film just outside the Poetry Library door so that people can add their own poems. And we're looking forward to receiving that.
That sounds amazing. What a way to make you feel like you belong immediately as soon as you arrive in the city and go to the Poetry Library. Serious welcome. Serious Mancunian welcome, don't you think, Hafsah?
A serious Mancunian welcome. Well, poetry is, I think as one of those children on Made in Manchester said, that we have poetry is at our heart. Manchester has a big heart. I know we love all kinds of reading and writing, but there is something about the spoken word as well as written poetry, decades and decades of so much kind of development of that genre that I think we want to honour that in the Poetry Library. And Manchester Met, of course, has a writing school that you're one of our senior lecturers, and we're building on that knowledge, really. We have 9 fantastic poets within the school already who are supporting the development of the library.
It's an absolute pleasure to be able to help and to see something like that come to the city and become such a huge part so quickly. It's amazing.
And I think we had a Mushaira, as Zahid was talking about Mushairas, we had a Mushaira with a difference last night. We had 6 schools from across Manchester sending in their own mini Mushairas from school. And I know we're going to show a very, very short video of just 4 children in the Stanley Grove Primary Academy, the International New Arrivals class that Francis Asti works with. And they use poetry a lot because the children have a chance to speak in their mother tongue, as well as learning English. And I think you've both said so much this afternoon about how much pride in your language is so connected with your identity. It can't be disconnected. And if you're in school and you're not asked to talk about your own language or within your own language, I mean, it's unthinkable, really. It means that part of your character, much more than half of your character, is not being taken into consideration.
That was the case when I was at school, and language was such a big part. But I was told it wasn't allowed. But my mother insisted on getting us through the GCSEs and A levels on her own, finding the examining boards on her own, and maybe that's where the passion comes from about language now, because there's nothing more exciting than seeing quite the opposite going on in our city with everybody who's involved in the city to be doing that for our languages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think many schools do fantastic work, as we know, and we saw some of that in the multilingual Mushaira last night. But they're not really helped by a curriculum that doesn't focus on creativity enough.
No.
And I think if you miss that part of your education, it tends to avoid bringing in the bits of your identity, your language, your family, your own experiences. And I think poetry is one way to do that, both in and out of the classroom. And Hafsah was talking about supplementary schools.
Yes.
And Yaris earlier, I mean, 10 Saturday schools where you're learning and developing your own language rather than having to keep it at bay in your school.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see everything connecting up like that, where they used to be quite separate, those kind of schools. But now we feel, I think through all the different projects, we've heard about all the different people like yourselves who've come on to talk to us, have really shown us how you can connect everything up and make everybody proud and connected through language and poetry and words. I think there's been a bit of a hitch, and I think we've lost Hafsah, but I'm not sure. So I'm sorry if I've gone on and on, but that's why I was. But I suppose we should hear from the Mushaira you were talking about. I think there's a mini film where we're going to hear from the pupils from Stanley Grove Primary Academy speaking in different languages, and talking about exactly what you're saying. And I must apologize that there are no captions on this short film.
Assalamualaikum, Aisyah Mama kerja. Ayo matulog koli. Ayo mana batat ko. Munggo pa use shopping at to dash nester kidi. Using land camp.
Are you feeling okay today? I'm going to tell you my fan point. Tamamat gari na sanalum de, tamamat gari wa Pakistan kita, tamamat gari der khada, tamamat gari tamarat laluda, tamamat gari madera yadak shubi, lupali mar gari to tilpun khabarikum. Now I'm gonna tell you in English. My friend name is Sana. My friend live in Pakistan. My friend is so kind. My friend is my cousin. I talk to my friend in my phone. I really miss my friend. Bye, Miss Hesty.
Hi, my name is Tia, and I'm going to read the first line of my poem in Setswana, Zulu, and Afrikaans. Salayemi kebutu melodrami, umgani wami uwentokoso. My friend is my vriachte. My friend is my joy. My friend is my pride. My friend is something money can't buy. My friend is a blessing from heavens above. My friend will always be in my heart. Happy Mashara Day, everybody!
Wow, I loved that. You can see the grin from one ear to the other.
I know. It's like boom, boom, boom.
And I mean, that's just 4 of the children. If you go on to YouTube and search multilingual Mushaira for Manchester, there's an hour-long Mushaira and sometimes you've got socially distant children in their classroom having their own Mushaira. So have a look, and it's interactive, so that you can, if you are with a class or at home with a family, you can join in. Yeah, it was fantastic.
A child's sense of being, and really celebrate where they're from. I think it's wonderful what you've done there. Anjum, I wanted to ask you actually, what has it been like working on the multilingual, multi-language Mushaira?
It's really nice to have you back, Hafsah. I thought I'd lost you then. I don't want you to go away. Please stay with us. It's been a real pleasure. It's been going for 3 years. It started off as an idea, and now it's like a regular event. And you saw the children there. Can you imagine if you were in front of them? And if you go on to YouTube and watch them, they have taken Mushaira into their hearts and have given it back to us. Only great children like the ones we have in Manchester can, with just such warmth and excitement and energy, that I can just see them turning the Mushaira into something uniquely their own in their languages, in their words. I just can't wait to see what more they're going to do every year. It's been a real pleasure. I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you. Becky, it's been so nice to have you on here. I think, is it now we say goodbye? I'm a bit confused here. No, sorry. I'm not trying to get rid of you, Becky. Okay, so today is the launch of this year's Mother Tongue, Other Tongue multilingual poetry competition, open to all those kids between ages 8 and 18. We are delighted to welcome Professor Sharon Hindley, who's the Faculty Pro Vice Chancellor for Arts and Humanities at our university, Manchester Metropolitan University. Over to Sharon.
Welcome everyone. I'm Sharon Handley, Pro Vice Chancellor for Arts and Humanities here at Manchester Met, and I'm delighted to be here today to announce that Mother Tongue Other Tongue 2021 launches today as part of our International Mother Language Day celebrations. This annual poetry competition for schools, run by the Manchester Writing School here at Manchester Met, was awarded the Queen's Anniversary Prize at Buckingham Palace last year. This is the highest national honour awarded to UK universities, so it's testimony to the quality of the competition, and we're very proud. Mother Tongue Other Tongue has inspired over 30,000 pupils across the country to write a poem in a range of languages. It aims to celebrate cultural diversity and the many languages currently spoken in schools across the country. In the Northwest, it is open to all primary and secondary schools. Mother Tongue asks pupils who do not have English as a first language to write about a creative poem or song in their native language, while Other Tongue asks pupils to write an original poem in a second language that they are learning at school. Being multilingual has many advantages, and it's great that pupils learn to value this early on in their lives through Mother Tongue Other Tongue. Carol Ann Duffy, professor in this faculty and ex-poet laureate, internationally renowned poet Imtiaz Daka, and the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala Yousafzai, have all endorsed the competition. Last year, we had 2,300 poem submissions, despite school closures and despite lockdown. We had to change the way we ran the project, but we're very proud of what we achieved. There are some brilliant resources on the Mother Tongue Other Tongue website to help you to get involved in writing poems to submit to the competition. This year's workshops, led by poets, will continue to be held virtually to allow you to participate from home. And one last thing, the deadline for submission of a poem for Mother Tongue Other Tongue is Wednesday, the 26th of May. The winning entries will be invited to a celebration on the 14th of July and a visit to the university's new Manchester Poetry Library when it opens later this year. The Poetry Library will hold an anthology of all of the winning poems from the competition. So, without further ado, thank you for listening. Be inspired to write poetry in the language of your choice, and I hope you all enjoy today's event. So stay safe and bye for now.
Amazing. What a brilliant competition this is. Everybody has till May to pen your poems. Thank you, Professor Handley. And now we're going to hear from pupils and staff at the Polish Saturday School.
Hello, I'm Marta Niblet. I work as a governor in Polish School Manchester. We are a voluntary organization, so my position is also voluntary. And we have been operating for over 10 years. We've grown from having about 50 students to about 250 students. And our age ranges are from 3-year-olds to about 16-year-olds or even A-level students. We prepare all the children for students for exams, and with younger children, we work on enhancing their Polish speaking and writing skills, as well as giving them a platform for cultural education. I think multilingualism and generally diversity is enriching to any place, and especially to a place like Manchester that is a vast collection of different people. So I think it's very positive to encourage that. It is positive because people will feel welcome if you welcome them as they are, for example, with the mother language that they speak. And when they feel welcome, they feel good. They can grow, they can develop, they have the positive attitude about the place where they live and about themselves. But also, I think it's actually quite strategic to allow and enable the language diversity, simply because, especially the children, the kids who speak more languages than English, they grow, they get jobs. They don't necessarily stay in Manchester, but then they actually are ambassadors for this place. They remember it fondly. They want to come back, maybe doing business, maybe studying, maybe having some other links. And I think it's through this kind of informal networks the cities actually grow and benefit.
I decided to work at the school because I want to share the knowledge about Poland, and because of the fact that I am a trained teacher. Additionally, teaching allows me to maintain constant contact with the Polish community and work on maintaining my own Polish language skills.
I think I've really gained a sense of routine, and I think I manage my time better now since I have lessons as well as teaching a class. So it's just helped me mature as a person. I've also learned how to develop my language into like a more formal way of speech, especially for like essays and analysing books at A-level, because I've just not been able to do that before. So I think it's just really helped me develop my language skills.
I personally feel that the most important thing that people gain from enrolling in the Saturday Polish school is the ability to read and write, as those are the two key elements in embracing Polish culture. And not only that, but I feel you gain in a sense of companionship, because you might have seen someone at school who you know speaks Polish but never talk to them.
Even as I'm doing GCSEs now, as well as an earlier A-level, and I'm doing 2 languages at GCSEs as well as Polish, so the crossover from similar words, similar forms and tenses, it's so helpful to even help in my normal school as well as Polish.
I think the best part of the Polish Saturday school is not only the additional GCSE and the extra qualifications it gives, but the people you meet and the extra activity you get from it outside of school, regular school. I think it improves your writing and it expands your Polish vocabulary a lot. It just makes it easier to speak to Polish family and friends. And it's also really helpful to learn about your home country's culture and history and all the traditions. It just brings you and your family closer.
I gain an understanding of my own culture as well as expand my own knowledge on Polish. I feel part of a community, and I take part in many activities that I really enjoy. We write about like many Polish things which I enjoy, find out about new stuff. Sometimes we mess about, play football at break. I really enjoy just feeling part of the community, really.
I like the Polish Saturday School because you can learn new things every day, and you can learn things that you didn't really know before, and you can learn new places and new cultures every week.
Well, as a child, I really enjoyed reading books by Jan Brechpa. And I remember there were a lot of pictures and they were so entertaining to me as a child. I read mostly in English now, but I still remember a lot of his stories.
My favourite Polish writer is Aga Szczepańska, because I remember reading a book called Patka I Pepe when I was younger. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't put the book down really. So that's just stuck in my head.
I have many. I'm an avid reader, and I love reading books. But I think most Polish writers will be quite obscure. so I'm going to say that one of my favorite Polish writers is Olga Tokarczuk, who is actually the Nobel Prize winner in literature for 2019. A fun fact is that she actually lived and worked in my hometown, which is a provincial town in Poland. So I would it's complex literature and very rewarding, and I can highly recommend to anyone reading her books.
So I don't read much in Polish, but through A-levels, we've been like assigned books that we have to analyze and talk about. And one of the books we're reading is a wartime biography, which I thought I'd hate, but it's so interesting. And I've actually like learned to love the characters, even though they're like real people. It's called Stones of a Rampart by Alexander Kamiński, I think. It's quite short as well and has pictures, so I think it's a good book to start with.
My favourite writer is Michał Rusinek. He writes a loads of poems, and I have one of his books when I think I graduated to this class, I think, from last year. And I liked his poems because it's like families can read them all together, and like it's really nice.
My favorite Polish writer since forever was and still is Janusz Korczak. He was a genius who viewed an approach to teaching where several generations ahead of his time. He's not only a writer, he's perfect pedagogue whose calling was teaching. He still set the standard for others to follow, despite the fact that his writings and teachings are 100 years old. He taught then and still does now of respect for the child as an equal being to the rest of us.
So I feel like it's important for Manchester to be a safe place for non-native English speakers, because especially for people who, or immigrants who come over to England from not just Poland, but all over the world, to have somebody who understands what you've gone through and can comfort you in your own native language. I can only imagine how that must feel, as it's a tough journey for some, and I feel like it can be daunting for some people to come to England with this whole new culture, and especially in Manchester, kind of, you know, the 24/7 busy and bustling streets where you may feel like no one knows just how you feel.
People in Manchester are tolerant and open to different ethnicities, countries and languages, and I think that has value for many people.
Because Manchester isn't a place for just English speakers, and it hasn't been for a long time. So I think it's really important to have that dialogue between native speakers and foreign speakers, just to create like a more cohesive environment and like a safe place for everyone.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Just before we talk about the film, I just want to say that Britain was not at war with Bangladesh about language. We just want to apologize for any misunderstanding on that part, if there was one. And so, yes, Hafsah.
Messages from Polish young people there.
Yeah. Again, adding to the richness of our day and our city, isn't it? Just the celebration of languages and how everybody's connecting through the language and poetry.
The reminder as well at the end there of, you know, native speakers connecting with foreign ones to foster a better understanding
Yes, yes.
I think that's a lovely place to end on that film.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And also, please, everyone, remember that for more Polish literature, there's the Manchester Poetry Library event, which Becky mentioned, on Saturday, 27th of February. If you see the Manchester City of Literature website, you'll find all the details on there.
And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to Kate and Yal, our British Sign Language interpreters. And thank you to all the groups and individuals who appeared today and who make Manchester a city of languages.
Yes, thank you all. Please do let us know what you thought of today's broadcast. You can leave comments on YouTube or on social media using the hashtag MCRIMLD21.
And remember to visit www.manchestercityofliterature.com to see International Mother Language Day events that are happening this week and beyond.
So, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Hafsah. It's been a joy working with you and everybody behind the scenes.
Thank you again for watching, and it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.